Raw number 254, April 6th, 1998. Vince McMahon came out for a promo. No music, but they did have a sign, close-up of a sign referring to him as a homophobic slur. The crowd is passionately chanting Austin's name.
Nothing will be as bad as Roddy Piper on Nitro.
That's true.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Piper got a promo that would not fly today. We'll get to that.
Dude. He said something the other week, and I brought it up, and you were hemming and hawing.
I kind of try to play devil's
am I right
advocate
now?
or downplay it. This was worse.
Vinny tries to gloss over things that are uncomfortable.
I do.
This one you can't gloss
Frankly,
over.
I have since 1975. It's a philosophy that has served me well. So, Vince, who, by the way, he is not, I'm calling him Mr. McMahon, but he is still 95% just the boss, the guy who owns the company, the guy who wants to put on a show for all the fans. And then there's like 5% will give out one line that's evil. So he's trying to be nice to the fans. He says, having Austin arrested last week was one of the toughest decisions of my life. But Austin was released due to my own benevolence. Now the good news is, Steve Austin has learned his lesson. No longer will he be a beer-swilling blue-collar champion. He guaranteed a new and improved Stone Cold Steve Austin or your money back. And he left.
You know, I was thinking about this when he said that. And granted, Steve Austin did come out in a suit and tie briefly. This was not a new and improved Steve Austin. He tore that goddamn shirt off later on in the show. I think that all these fans should have got their money back.
There should have been a class action suit.
There should have been.
Yeah.
And I love that this Vince McMahon character, it's very obvious as a viewer that this man believes his own bullshit, and you know that he's going to be humiliated, and it's awesome.
This is not a character, Brian. He believes his own BS all the time.
That's why he plays the character so well.
Right.
Dan Severn versus Flash Funk.
This happened.
So,
It was awesome.
and it was not the most astounding match of the night, actually.
Yeah.
I just watched Dan Severn and Matt Riddle. Dan Severn has not aged.
I believe you entirely.
Like, he is not aged at all.
And he wasn't terribly
God damn
young
it.
here either.
He is not
He was
aged
22
at all.
on this Raw.
No, he's 60 now. 58, I think.
Yeah.
58. So he would have been 19 years ago, 37, something like that. 39.
39.
Whatever. Point is, he looks exactly the same. Mm-hmm. He wrestled a little slower, but he wrestled exactly the same. And you know, I like Dan Severn. Believe it or not, Dan Severn had the Figure 4 Weekly delivered to his house for years. The print copy.
Wow.
Super nice guy. The nicest guy. But I remember in the 90s, I just didn't get it. I was like, why am I watching Dan Severn have these terrible matches on WWF TV? Well, I don't know what's changed, but I watched this match in 2017. I thought it was awesome. This match was awesome. What was I missing back then?
So Dan comes out. He's wearing the UFC Championship belt. He's carrying the NWA World Championship belt over his shoulder. He's got Jim Cornette behind him carrying 2 more belts. And it occurred to me, you know how we say the more things change, the more they stay the same, or what's old is new again? Here we are 19 years ago on Raw. Who are we watching but a decorated amateur wrestler who is a former UFC champion and calls himself the Beast?
That's right.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
Only not.
This video package they aired, by the way, music straight out of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
Scary music as he suplexed and choked the fuck out of dudes.
Just destroyed guys. How did I not appreciate this?
He was carrying a total of like 5 belts.
4 or 5 belts. Yeah.
One of them being the NWA Championship belt that he beat Chris Candido for in February of 1995. So he'd been champion for a few years.
For a while now. So he beat the fuck out of Flash Funk, took him down, starts raining down slaps because, as Jim Cornette explains, when you're throwing closed fist punches, bare knuckle punches from the mount, you're at risk of breaking your own hand. Slaps are safer for the striker.
Of course, everyone else on the show punching left and right.
Of course. So Funk made a brief comeback, but then Severn scored a takedown and got a submission win with, they called it an arm bar, but it looked more like a key lock or a wrist lock to me.
It was
Regardless.
awesome. I don't care.
Yeah.
He was awesomely crazy.
He was. DX came out for a promo. The announcers explained Shawn Michaels was at home nursing injuries. He had no comment on the new DX. Michael Cole was playing heel announcer, sucking up to everything Vince said in the first segment, talking about how great DX was here. Road Dogg, for the first time, did his New Age Outlaws introduction that got him so famous for so many years. He said they were the youngest and most talented athletes in the business. Kid said the grumpy old men were on the other show. They were young and hungry, and they were getting jiggy with it. He actually said this.
You know, this NWO on the other channel is a bunch of old guys, and they also have a bunch of geeks in it, like Vincent. But man, oh man. Sean Waltman out there saying getting jiggy with it, and then they go backstage, and they're a total low rent. They're like the NWO C team.
This is the key. Hunter makes a dick joke. They go to commercial. After commercial, after burying the NWO in the ring, they go backstage, they bully people, and then they get spray paint and tag everything.
Yeah.
What the?
This was like the NWO C team. Mm-hmm. Just a bunch of dingbats acting like juveniles.
They didn't even assault anybody of note. It was just like the guy that, sweeps the ring.
Yeah.
It was just nobody.
I cannot wait for these shows to continue on as we review them because, man, oh man, do I remember the time. I could not give two fucks about this new DX. I thought they were so lame. I thought the original DX was 1,000 times better. And so far, this new DX has not proven me wrong.
Oh.
What a bunch of dorks. Grown men.
Steve Blackman versus Brian Christopher. Tennessee Lee came out to do commentary. He promised that at the Unforgiven pay-per-view, doing a concert for Double J would be Mike Miller and Sawyer Brown.
Right.
Led to believe are country artists of some sort.
Yeah, Sawyer Brown was on Impact.
Oh, was he?
I believe so.
They were going to back
or they.
up.
Is it he or they?
Sawyer Brown's a band.
They, okay.
They were going to back up Double J, he said.
That's what he said.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was going to be their backing band.
Yeah.
This is all you need to know about this segment. Next week's Raw is the week that they beat Nitro in the ratings after 83 weeks, a streak. And when this right here, this tells you how much people stopped giving a shit about WCW. The fact that they actually lost to a show that had Brian Christopher versus Steve Blackman with Tennessee Lee all over this segment. This was horrible. In fact, this show was bad, except for everything involving Vince McMahon, Steve Austin, and The Rock. They still beat WCW next week.
So I was just impressed. The undercard guys had a chance to have a match. It was a fun match. Blackman won clean with a bicycle kick. That was the other thing. Tennessee Lee was out there, and I thought, well, he's here for sure to interfere. But no, he left. Blackman won clean.
Yeah, they killed the Cruiserweight division again. It's dead.
That's been dead for a
It's
long
over
time.
with.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. Now they're just keep beating a dead horse. So then Tennessee Lee returned. He demanded they lower the lights for Double J's entrance. And then Jarrett appeared behind Blackman, broke the guitar over his head because somebody must get hit in the head with a weapon on every single episode of Raw. DX found DOA's bikes. You remember what you said 2 minutes ago about DX being dorks?
Oh my God.
When Hunter Hearst Helmsley said, hey guys, I dare ya. No, I double dare ya. No, I triple dog dare ya to piss on these bikes. He turned into a Christmas story right there before our eyes.
Do you realize that on Nitro, the NWO does a surprise gang beating of Randy Savage and then zooms out in an out-of-control Viper?
Yeah.
On this show, DX pees on some motorcycles.
Yeah.
What a bunch of geeks. They should be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Just throw all these geeks in there. Hey, let's pee on their bikes.
Yeah.
After a double, triple dog dare.
And they use the same jokes over and over. It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. You shake it more than once and you're playing with it over and over and over again.
Yeah. Cactus Jack came out for a promo on a neck brace.
This was great.
He talked about taking risks in the ring, getting hurt a lot, but he refused to let punks like DX put him on the shelf. So Terry Funk was not there. You knew if Terry Funk missed a show, he must be hurt very badly.
Can I ask you a question about the peeing, by the way, that I just remembered? So they all line up in front of the bikes. Mm-hmm. They all start undoing their trousers because they're all going to pee pee on the bikes.
As one does.
So anyway, they put the big circle, the censored circle over everybody,
Sure.
even though their backs are turned. So they throw all of these up because everyone's peeing, but then all of a sudden Road Dogg is like 10 feet away from his bike and stumbling around.
Well, there's a reason for that.
What happened?
X-Pac missed.
And hit him?
Yes. And he ran away saying, "You're pissing on me." This is not improve Brian's mood. That's why
He fucking missed a giant motorcycle.
I suspect it may have been a rip.
This is ridiculous.
I think it was intentional.
This is preposterous.
But it did lead to the only good part of the whole thing, when Road Dogg turns around and says, "Oh my God, Billy's still going."
Yeah.
I laughed. Anyway, back to Cactus Jack here. Says, last week he and Terry Funk had been lying there in agony. The show had ended and all anyone cared about was Steve Austin. For years, people have told him to bring back Cactus Jack, and then he did. And he's lying there helpless, and people are chanting someone else's name. Now, don't get him wrong. He likes Steve. He's happy Steve is champion. But the people chanting Austin's name last week was disrespectful to himself and Funk. He said, "Fans, I'm going to give you one chance to apologize." Fans did not take this opportunity. So Cactus says, for the first time in 13 years, it's not worth it anymore. It'll be a long time before you see Cactus Jack in the ring again. He starts to leave, and he takes the mic one last time, and he says, he's choking back tears now. He says, "If you ever enjoyed a Cactus Jack match, thank you. And for the rest of you," he dropped the mic and walked to the back.
He should have said, "Piss off." Just playing to the theme of this show. Remember when Nitro used to have titles?
Oh, the episodes of Nitro?
Yeah, it was so stupid. It's supposed to be a live show, but they had titles
Right.
that told you what was going to happen on the show.
Yes.
Jesus.
We got video of the Nation jumping Farouk in the parking lot. We were told the Nation had
They were way cooler than DX.
They were told the Nation had shot this themselves and delivered it themselves. And it ended with The Rock warning Farouk to never return. Rock versus Owen Hart. Rock, at this point here in early 1998, still was not a great wrestler, but god damn was he a great cartoon character. Just over the top everything, and it was awesome. Use the people's elbow. Have you used that term before?
Actually, before the match even started, The Rock did a promo and said, "Finally, the people's champ has returned home to Syracuse." Mm-hmm. No reaction.
Yeah.
Not one person responded to this. What became one of his most famous catchphrases of all time.
Well, nobody responded to the people's elbow either.
Just a throwaway line and a throwaway move on the show.
These things take time. So Owen makes his comeback. He locks in the sharpshooter when Chyna runs out. She hits him with a baseball bat for the DQ. DX is laughing at all this on the stage, and then Chyna walks by. She shuns them. She does not make eye contact. She drops the bat and walks right through him because 95 things have to be going on the show at once.
Yeah, I must mention as well that everything that I've been saying about DX on this show, Chyna doesn't talk much, but when they did their opening segment earlier in the show, Chyna is just standing behind them, looking at them like they're all such geeks.
There wasn't an eye roll, but
No,
you
she's
could
just
tell.
looking at him like, dude, what am I doing here?
after she hit Owen, she
am I
storms up the
doing?
ramp. She storms up the ramp, and Road Dogg gives a, "Oh my gosh," look, and they give her a wide berth, and they just stare at her as she walks on past them. Dissension. But I don't think it ever led to anything.
No, what the hell was this all about?
No idea.
Something about she's tired of doing their work for them. I don't know.
She's probably tired of them screwing around like sophomores, and she has to do the dirty work, like go hit Owen with a bat.
She's
Probably
mom.
sick of dating Hunter, and then every town he goes to, he's calling out all the women.
That may be it
His
too.
cannon's about to whatever.
Yeah. Well, the good news is Val Venis is about to show up, so Hunter won't be doing those jokes anymore.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Vince came back out, flanked by a pair of cops. He immediately introduced the new and improved Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Austin comes out in a suit and tie and his own baseball cap.
Let's talk about these cops. Unlike the cops nowadays, which are jacked up dudes with awful haircuts because they're local indie guys. I don't want to be too mean to these cops because they may have really been cops.
I'm sure one of them was.
There was one fat guy
That was the
with a
cop.
terrible mustache, and one skinny guy, Barney Fife, with a shaved face.
Who was the one with a tie that was way too short?
That was the bigger one.
That was the fat guy.
That was a bad look.
And they stood there. What's their job?
To protect Vince McMahon.
Okay, as we go through this, I just want you to remember, there's 2 cops in the ring.
Right.
So Austin gets in the ring, suit and tie, baseball cap. He's got his big shiny gold belt, which he's gently cradling in his arm as careful as he can be. And he gets in the ring and he goes in the corner to do his pose. And he stops and he looks back at Vince. And Vince gives him a no. And so Steve just stops and he raises his fist in the air. Does that in all 4 corners.
I gotta say something about this. A few weeks ago, they did a contract signing on Raw for Triple H and Seth. And Hunter's sitting down, and Seth doesn't want to sit down. And Hunter tells the guy to sit down, and Seth says, I'm not sitting down. And so Hunter says, well, no match then. He starts to walk out, and Seth, like a little child, has to sit down in the fucking chair. Just like a geek. This here, Austin was going to climb the ropes. Vince said, oh no. And Austin did not climb the ropes. But at no point did you not expect that Vince is going to get it in the end. There was not one moment in this segment that you didn't know that everything that Steve Austin was doing was all a setup for Vince getting it in the end. And he did.
So Vince says he is overwhelmed. This is the first step in Austin becoming the greatest champion of all time. That was true. So he knew this wasn't easy and would take a lot of work. Crowd was chanting Austin's name. Vince asked them to please pay attention. That was awesome. Didn't ask me quiet or yell shut up. He says, please pay attention. So Vince says, we talked about all the proper attire, and Austin says, well, I wore the suit. Vince says, where are the Gucci shoes?
Did you watch Goldberg last night, by the way?
I've not watched Goldberg last night.
When the audience was doing the what treatment and how he responded to them?
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's very much like Vince, except they listened. He basically said, I'm being serious here, and I'd appreciate it if you'd listen.
Okay.
And they all just stopped, and they listened to him. It was so awesome.
Oh, God. So Austin's got his boots on. He says, those shoes were too tight. They were uncomfortable. I went and put my wrestling boots on instead. And Vince says, well, this hat doesn't go with the suit either. And he throws the hat into the crowd. And Steve says, that was a good hat.
It was one of his own, by the way.
Yes. And Vince says, this is a good effort. Fans, how about a round of applause for Stone Cold Steve Austin? And everyone boos. And Vince says, I got to know, what is it that made you change your mind? And Austin says, well, Vince, last week I was sitting there in that jail cell. Walls were closing in. No bread, no water. And he asked himself, what chance do I have against a man like Vince McMahon? I'm just a redneck from South Texas. I happen to have a belt. Against a multi-millionaire from Connecticut. In that jail cell, I realized I can't beat Vince McMahon. All the power and money that you've got, and they zoom in on Vince as he's giving the speech and sucking up to Vince as much as possible. I don't know how to describe Vince's face. It'd be easy to say it was a smile, but that doesn't do it justice. There is a gleam and a glimmer in Vince's eye as Austin talks about how great and powerful and rich he is. This right here, this moment, was the greatest moment in Vince McMahon's life. It didn't last long. So Austin says, I just want to ask one of these 2 officers to take a camera, take a picture of us. And he pulls out a camera. And they do the goofiest pose of Vince and Austin holding the belt together and giving giant smiles. And he takes the picture, and Austin says, now, the old Steve Austin would tell you to stick this up your ass. The new Steve Austin wants you to get this film developed, because the last time you're ever going to see me in a suit. And he throws off the jacket, he throws off his shirt, and he throws off his pants, just like The Undertaker. He's wearing an Austin t-shirt, wrestling trunks, and boots. No knee pads, which always looks creepy. Mm-hmm. He told Vince it's time for you to bow down. Gives him the Tim Flowers cup check. And it's a photo of Vince cowering in pain. Austin declares he will never change for anybody. He storms out. And yes, there were cops there watching this man punch Vince McMahon in the testicles.
This was so awesome. And then Vince
is the best.
Vince cradles his balls.
Yeah,
he recovers. And then he walks up the ramp, and the cops just walk after him, looking at him like,
You're skipping something. Vince pulls himself to his feet. He's in pain. He's humiliated. His plans have all gone awry. He's gingerly walking over, and he goes to step through the ropes, and he accidentally nuts himself again.
Yes.
That was gold. That was absolute gold. Vince was amazing in this segment.
Jim Ross capped it off by saying, Rattlesnakes don't make good corporate pets.
First off, I did love that in storyline on this show, Vince McMahon is an asshole boss who wants his champion to come to work wearing a suit against his will, even though he is a professional wrestler. And then, a couple of years later, he told all of his professional wrestlers, against their will, to fucking start wearing suits to work. And he probably couldn't figure out why they were so mad about it. Second off, I realized that Vince was great. You know who was great? Vince McMahon and Steve Austin and Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. And I watched this segment, and it was so awesome, and I was so sad. Because I thought, there will never, ever, I don't think in my lifetime, maybe anybody's lifetime, ever be an act this great again. These men were all at the right place at the right time, and they were all perfect. There will never be a person as good as Vince at playing Vince McMahon. There will never be a person as good as Steve Austin at playing Steve Austin. Jim Ross's... First off, Jerry Lawler is the heel commentator. He's reveling in this and that, and JR is just appalled. He's appalled at Lawler. He's appalled at Vince. He's friends with Steve Austin. It is a absolutely perfect dynamic. We will never see anything like this again. Ever. It'll never happen again. I'm convinced. I was devastated when this was over. God, it was great.
DOA came out for a promo. They were mad that DX pissed on their bikes. They wanted to fight, and then they left.
Took like 30 seconds. Silly.
Stephanie and Hunter. Dude.
Hey, I have high hopes for Angle as the GM.
Get out of here.
Telling you.
Well, Angle, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's never going to be anything like this again. This is what's next. Hunter and Steph.
I love how he wanted to
For a
argue with
lifetime.
me before he even actually heard what I said. You're amazing.
I am amazing. Thank you.
Luna Vachon versus
A geek.
A man.
Geek.
He said many times she will wrestle a man.
Matt Knowles was the man's name.
And well into, I guess it was not, as well into
Matt
the beating.
Grassy Knowles was his gimmick.
So it was the first mixed gender match in WWE history, we were told. Or WWF.
God.
So Goldust attacks Matt Knowles before the bell, beats the hell out of him, lays him out, and then the bell rings, so he's already a beaten man. So Luna, he's fighting to his feet in the corner, and Luna's eyeballing him. And at this point, he's fresh meat. There's nothing he can do. She can do any move she wants to him.
Did you see Matt Knowles? This fucking guy was fresh meat the moment he stepped into the ring.
That's fair.
I was like, why does Goldust have to beat this man up first?
Luna would have killed this guy.
Why is he softening up Matt Knowles?
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you 100%.
He didn't need much softening.
But the point being, he's there, helpless, vulnerable, and she says, I'm going to kill this guy. And she runs up and gives him a monkey flip.
It's not even that.
I laughed. And I
The
laughed,
monkey flip was
and I
funny.
laughed.
But before the monkey flip, she hit this fucker so hard. I was watching. It's just like I said. Why did Goldust need to soften this guy up? Goldust gave this guy a beating for like 2 straight minutes. And then, once it was Luna's turn, she hit him so hard. I was like, oh my God. It's like when people used to have to wrestle Hornswoggle. Man.
I got a better example.
He was very stiff, that little guy.
Shane McMahon.
And you couldn't
No.
complain about it.
When you had to wrestle Tim, who's the woman Tim had in his corner?
Oh, Combat
Lady
Girl?
Vi?
No.
Combat Girl.
No, the blonde. Blonde with curly hair.
Yeah, I
Dating
remember
Nate
her.
for a while.
Oh.
I forgot her name now.
What the
But
hell
I
was
remember
her
watching, there was the B&I, you're wrestling Tim out in the parking lot, and Tim throws you outside, and it's her job to come over and hit you. And I'm watching from like 30 yards away. I'm not close, but I see her approach, and you're down on all fours on outside the ring, and she raises a fist in the air, and as far away as I am, I can still see she has one knuckle extended on this fist.
That's right.
And she puts one knuckle down into your head, like she's trying to bust you open.
I remember that.
What was her name?
Oh, God. It's going to drive me crazy.
Was it Phoebe?
Phoebe!
It was Phoebe. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what fighting Luna was like here. She beat the hell out of this guy. I also remember in high school we had a self-defense book from like the 50s. Is what they thought, Jiu-jitsu was, or judo. And there's some chops and some elbows, and then there is a move that they call the shank jump which was a monkey flip.
The shank jump.
Shank jump. You
Wow.
jump up, you put your feet in his shanks, I guess, and flip him backwards over you.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Luna,
Well, she did a shank jump here.
Luna shank jumped this fucker and hit a diving headbutt to the balls for the win.
Oh my God.
A Val Venis Vignette.
This was,
Craig's very amused by this.
they had a camera crew there. They were filming the camera crew.
Was between takes on the set.
Right.
Yeah.
So Val is laying there in his refractory period, and he's talking about the enormity of his Johnson.
Yeah.
And at the end it says Val Venis is coming.
The gimmick is he makes dick jokes and then laughs at his own dick jokes.
Right.
I'm rising to the occasion.
Get that drop.
You know, last week I said that I would DM Courtney
Oh, yeah.
and find out if porn stars sat under the covers and watched their own scenes.
Yes.
Now, of course, she does not speak for everybody, but she said that she did not watch and critique her scenes. In fact, she's unable to watch her own work. Many actors say that. I just can't watch myself. And she noted that there is a website that actually does star ratings for every scene
Oh, sure.
in each porn film.
Yeah.
And she noted that Courtney's Chain Gang is my highest rated DVD.
What's that one about, Brian?
So if you'd like to check that out, Courtney's Chain Gang.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Gang. Marc Mero came out with Sable.
I should kill you two right here on the air.
Mero immediately said he'd let her have the spotlight last week. This week he wanted her to get out of his face. And Sable was fine with this. That was the best part.
I love that he brings her out every week.
Thank
They
you.
fly
And
around the
then
country.
Sends her out of here.
They go in planes, they're in rental cars, go to the buildings, and then on camera he tells her to leave, and she's like, cool.
And theoretically in storyline on his dime.
Yes.
Absolutely. He saw what she was wearing, took her all the way down the ring, and then changed his mind.
Maybe every week he thinks, this week they won't cheer her. And he gets down there and he's like, God damn it.
We're in Topeka this week.
You gotta get out of here
They
now.
love me in Topeka. Marc Mero versus Ken Shamrock. For about 30 seconds, they did a fun boxer versus kickboxer match, and then it just became every boring Raw match you ever saw. Shamrock hit a belly-to-belly. The Nation hit the ring. Shamrock grabbed a chair. They all ran away. There was no bell, no announcement made. I assume it was a DQ. So they surround the ring. Mark Henry sneaks up on Ken Shamrock.
A 330-pound man snuck up on Ken Shamrock.
They beat him up. And that was it. This is an awful segment.
Rock was awesome. There were a lot of great young guys on the rise here.
Well, that's for
We'll
sure.
say that. Unlike on Nitro.
Well, actually, there were some young guys on the rise there too, but they ended up rising in WWF.
That's fair.
Yeah, because they weren't rising in WCW. That's my point.
Undertaker came out for a promo.
Now this.
You know what's funny about this promo is we just saw the end of The Undertaker's career.
Yeah.
And Undertaker to me was a guy who he's one of those dudes that always looked old. Like when he debuted, he looked old.
Sure.
This guy's so old now that I looked at this and he looked young. It's the first time ever.
Are you telling me
I was like,
that
you
2
only
decades
look-
ago he looked younger than he does now?
It's crazy.
Huh.
I'm not just saying younger than he looks now. I'm saying he actually looked young.
I see.
That's how old he looks now.
How about the contrast between Vince McMahon last night on Raw?
Ooh, he was looking old.
Ooh, babe.
Oh my God.
Huge bags under his eyes like he hasn't slept. Oh, never mind.
Well, he
never
hasn't.
slept.
Never slept. Do you still have this haircut?
Yeah, pretty much.
For a while there, he had the shorter hair that looked so much cooler. And then he grew out this hair
The
again.
pompadour.
Well, you know his job isn't to look cool. It's to be a promoter.
I guess.
So it looks like Vince McMahon.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So Undertaker brags about his win over Kane at WrestleMania. Says he's going to win the Inferno match at Unforgiven. Kane being lit on fire will be the beginning of his eternal damnation.
Kevin Kelly was really good in that interview with Steve Austin. But this week, he goes, "You're going to be in a ring surrounded by fire match. I can only imagine what that might be." I'm like, it's a fucking ring surrounded by fire. Exactly as it's billed.
It's the match is in the name.
So the lights go out, and Kane and Paul Bearer appear, and they are at the indoor cemetery where Mr. and Mrs. Undertaker are buried.
That's right.
Bearer promised that Undertaker would, and this is a quote, die a slow, agonizing death at Unforgiven. He promised literal death on pay-per-view. So Kane grabs a hammer. He destroys the tombstones of his and Undertaker's parents. He pours gasoline on them and sets them on fire. And Undertaker was peeved.
I forget when exactly it was, but the day's coming when we get that big choke slam into the coffin filled with their remains.
Gotta be soon, you would think.
I guess so.
I don't remember that well.
I love the idea that apparently Paul Bearer knew that Undertaker was going to do a promo. And so he arranged transportation
Yes.
for the family's gravesite, arranged for a satellite truck and full camera crew to be there, and then coordinated this with the WWE's production crew.
Made sure
which is
that
very impressive.
wherever they were on this night, it was night where they were in the cemetery.
That's right. That's why he's a manager and a very successful one.
Triple H and the New Age Outlaws versus DOA. X-Pac joined the commentary team. It was terrible.
I'll just say one thing that you can go. When you put DOA in with an actual main event 6-man tag team,
Thank you.
they're not that horrible.
No, they're not.
It's when they're with the fucking Bariquas
Headbangers.
or the Headbangers,
Truth Commission.
the Truth Commission, any of these other shitheads, you're like, can you get these guys off my TV? Skull and 8 Ball were actually pretty good in this match.
Yeah, they were competent against competent competition.
The Chains, on the other hand.
Well,
Ugh.
So they call him X-Pac here. That's his name now. And Ross asks a question about his return to the WWF, gives him a bunch of motivations. And he responds, this is a quote, well, it's all of the above, Jim. I mean, it's easy to see that WWF's the place to be right now. I mean, you know. And here there is a long pause. I did my time down south, and now I'm back where I belong. Yes, I wrote that all down. I went back to transcribe.
I was going to say.
and Vinny is a thespian.
Yes. They had their standard trios match with a hot tag and a 6-way brawl. And if I were to ask you to guess the finish of this match 19 years ago, all of you would say Hunter would get the pin with the pedigree, and you would all be right.
Not only that, the baby faces are running wild, and there's no sledgehammer shot. No one gets hit with an object. No one even gets tripped running off the ropes or distracted. The baby faces are running wild. Heel Triple H steps into the ring, boots the guy in the stomach,
Yeah.
pedigrees him, and pins him clean in the middle. I fucking howled when I saw that. It's like, what a sign of things to come. It's begun.
It has. This is the point. They pile drive Chains in a chair, and they tie him up in the X pose, and they're going to kill him with a chair, but LOD 2000 runs out to make the save, and the bikers recover, and there's a giant brawl as the show goes off the air.
Why in the world did Sunny run down with LOD 2000?
What are you talking about? She's their manager.
Moral support?
She's going to help in the fight?
Well, you know, they're down, selling, they look up,
Hey,
boobs, and they fire up.
are we talking about Val Venis again? Last night, or Sunday night, we saw Brock Lesnar win a fight because his manager warned him about what Goldberg was doing behind his back. She was there to watch their backs.
Okay.
And she's much better looking than Paul Heyman.
Well,
And they were there to watch her back. And front.
Everyone wins.
And top and bottom.
So, Retro Raw, a historic Retro Raw, as it turns out. The first time they won the ratings war in like a year and a half.
The 84-week streak is over as
Yes.
a result of this show.
Now, I forgot about that when I started watching. And for the first 60 minutes, this show was miserable. Just awful. And I issued a public warning to people, do not watch this show. And some didn't take me seriously. Some said I was overreacting. Some wanted to know, how can that be? It's the show that beat Nitro. And I thought, oh my God, this is the show that beat Nitro. Now, I'll admit, the second hour was much better than the first. So things did turn around. But there is some bullshit on this show.
Well, if you watch the other show, there's bullshit on the other show.
Probably, yeah.
Problem is there was bullshit on both shows, but one show had
Steve Austin.
It had Steve Austin
Yeah.
and Vince McMahon. The other show had yet another fucking NWO run in the main event. Although, at least there was a babyface that cleared the ring at the end, but still,
Yeah, but-
holy fuck.
Well, we'll get to which babyface it was. That's a problem, too. Anyway, Retro Raw, episode number 255, April 13th, 1998. Austin came out for a promo, demands Vince come talk to him. Promises he's not going to pick a fight, he just wants to talk. Vince sheepishly pokes his head out from behind the curtain. That part there alone was already awesome. Eventually, he came out with Patterson and Briscoe and two guys in full SWAT gear. So they get in the ring, and Austin says he's just there to talk. First question Austin has is, he demands to know his challenger at the upcoming pay-per-view. Vince claims he does not made up his mind yet, but when he knows, he'll let Austin know soon.
You know, I love the idea that Vince McMahon is the promoter of WWE, and he can't figure out who should be facing Stone Cold Steve Austin, his new champion, at their next pay-per-view. Now, I forget exactly how the storyline goes, but jumping ahead very quickly, when what happened in the main event happened, my immediate assumption was, well, Vince was behind all of this. And this was how he was setting up a challenger for Steve Austin. I don't know if that's exactly where they go. I've totally forgotten. But man, oh man, Vince McMahon's like Daniel Bryan. He's running the show and he's not getting anything done.
Yeah, I think it's more he's so obsessed with his personal rivalry with Austin, it never occurred to him to actually put a show together.
Man.
He's not doing his job very well.
And the other thing I want to mention is that this is one of those things. This show was 19 years ago. And there are some things that WWE is still doing today, even though it started 19 years ago under completely different circumstances. How much time was spent on Steve Austin on this fucking show? Like an hour?
Close.
The final segment was a good 15, 20 minutes. The opening segment was a good 15, 20 minutes. They had figured out that people watch a show when Steve Austin is on. How can we get Steve Austin on the show as much as humanly possible? I liked this opening segment, but oh my God, did it go on and on and on. It was the first real big-time 20-minute opening promo.
May have been, yeah.
And the same thing they've done a million times. It worked, and so instead of concluding, man, these fans love Steve Austin, they concluded, we must have 20-minute promos at the beginning of every show leading into 2017. It's too goddamn long. Not everybody can talk for 20 minutes and entertain people.
No. Austin and Vince can, but not many others. So Vince says, I have not picked a challenger yet. And Austin, I don't think he believed him, but he's going to move on. Says the more important thing is you hate everything about me. The way I drink beer, my language, my foul gestures, the way I dress. You want a champion like yourself. In fact, you want to be champion. Isn't that right? Vince was befuddled. Austin says, you gave me this shiny new championship belt, but before that, the night before, you probably put it around your own waist and paraded around the house in your pajamas, which is a great visual. Austin says, I ain't going to defend this title tonight against you. Vince is baffled. Austin says, we can do this the easy way, which is you accept this challenge and I kick your ass, or the hard way, which is I go into your office later and I kick your ass. He said he was going to grant Vince 30 minutes to make a decision, no more, no less. I like that part. So, like, if Vince is ready to go in 5 seconds, Austin's still going to make him wait a half hour.
Yes.
So, Austin adds, you can't leave this building. I have beat up your limo driver and left him with 4 flat tires. He leaves.
You know, that sounds like a crime. I like the idea that Vince can't hail a cab.
There's one car in the entire city of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there's no way to get out of this building without that. It's a very good promo here.
Yes.
It was a very, very good promo. There's one other thing I was going to say I've totally forgotten.
Well, they'll come back, so they'll probably come back to you.
They will be back on this show. I remember what it was. Steve Austin goes on this big rant about how, listen, Vince, I know what you're looking for in a champion. You want a man who's going to represent you. He's going to be a corporate champion. And I'm just thinking, okay, the last champion was the guy who was in charge of DX. You had the Ultimate Warrior. You've had the craziest motherfuckers in the history of wrestling representing this company. And now the storyline is Vince only wants a corporate man in a suit.
If you think about it, the most professional, mature, adult champion they had was Bret Hart. And they chased him away.
Not only that, but you got to remember, Bret Hart for a long time was a heel.
Sure.
He was against Vic. He wasn't even an American.
No.
He hated America. That was your champion, a man who hated this country. But now, Vince McMahon wants a corporate champion. He's always wanted one.
They go to the break. They come back. Patterson and Briscoe. This is before they would just stick a camera in the middle of the scene and everyone pretended that there's no camera there. So they're in their locker room and the camera's like peeking around a corner to watch them. And Patterson and Briscoe are telling Vince, he's making a fool out of you. You need to stop things tonight once and for all. They want Vince to go fight.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here we go. So DX comes out. Do they have a match? No. Are they cutting a promo? No. They just come out to do their entrance. What's going on when they do their entrance? A chain match of some sort.
Yes.
I don't know if this was a four-way or a tag match. It doesn't matter.
You know, I could have, without even watching this show, I could have made a prediction. What are they going to follow this absolutely great Steve Austin, Vince McMahon promo with? Let me guess. A fucking match with two shitty tag teams. Sure as shit,
Yeah.
the fucking Bariquas and DOA are out there having a completely random chain match. A tag team chain match.
Not even like a double chain match where 8-Ball is chained to Savio and Skull is chained to Jesus or whichever Barriqua it was. Each of the four men, for no reason, is chained to a post.
Yeah. Because there's fear of them getting away.
Did I miss an entire
Fleeing.
storyline where like the bikers got on their bikes and ran away or drove away from a match?
Dude.
What the hell? What is happening here that you had to invent a match? This has never happened before. I'm quite certain there's never been a match with four dudes chained to the post ever, and never again since. Now the other thing is, these chains are fucking long. They can go across the ring, out of the ring. They're just there to be chains. So it goes on for a bit.
It was done because they had DX on screen and they had a bunch of chains and they had insanity.
A guy
and
named
they
Chains.
figured if you're watching Nitro and you switch to Raw, you're not going to be able to stop watching.
I wanted to stop watching.
Well, they were probably right is the problem.
So DX immediately beats up Chains, the person, not the object. He had a pedigree on a chair on the floor, then a pile driver on a chair on the ramp. Was it necessary to put the chair down for either of these moves?
It's a no DQ match. So even though there's outside interference and they can't call for a DQ, they just stop the match.
The no DQ chain match ended in a DQ.
No, it just ended. It was a no contest.
The bell rang. Now listen.
Yeah.
Now,
This is horse shit.
I'm clenching my fists already. We're one match in. They booked a 4-way chain match to do a double DQ in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
The chain match was set up to solve nothing, and it led to nothing.
Maybe DX was the ones that convinced somebody to make it a chain match. Because you see, as it turns out, the reason that DX was out there, besides so that they could play their music and be on TV for the people switching from Nitro, they're doing DX versus DOA at the pay-per-view. Let me repeat that. They have just reformed a brand new DX, and their first fucking feud is with DOA over bike pissing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only thing I can say is that I am looking at this roster and I don't see significantly better options. The nation, I
some
guess, but that's
singles
coming.
matches maybe.
That could help. Anyway, this all sucked. They beat up all three of the DOA, and they fooled the Bariquas into doing some crotch chops with them, and of course, they beat them up as well. This segment was shit. Shane, in, I'm pretty sure his first on-camera speaking role, at least on Raw, he joined the discussion with Vince. He's worried Vince could get hurt.
I've said this a million times. It is so ironic. Like every time we watch one of these old shows, the irony, this fucking guy just wrestled AJ Styles at WrestleMania. He's the GM, or whatever his goddamn role is on SmackDown. There's a GM and there's something else I can't even remember. What is it? It's a fucking GM and it's
I don't care. Commissioner.
Commissioner. Anyway, this fucking guy is an executive. And of course, he inserts himself into a match with their top wrestler and longtime world champion at fucking WrestleMania. Here's Shane McMahon in 1998 begging Vince to not step into the ring. Vince, you could get hurt. This guy's a wrestler. You're not. This is such a bad idea.
It is amazing.
I'm like, fuck you. Just fuck you.
Well, you know who else was like, fuck you, was Vince. Because Vince had been like sitting on a table, and he stood up when Shane said this, and his eyebrows raised, and he said, you don't think I can take Austin?
Yeah.
Because Vince is a tough guy.
But you know what? As viewers, we believe that Vince can't take Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, we have to believe that these goddamn McMahons can go on one-on-one with wrestlers who are working all the time.
True.
They're 47 years old. They haven't worked in a year, but goddamn it, they can get in the ring with AJ
Haven't won in
Styles
longer than that.
and fucking go toe-to-toe with this guy.
Yeah.
What
And if
the
they're
fuck?
not getting physical, then it's a verbal tirade every week. So, a tag match was about to start. But Vince came down to the ring to interrupt. And Vince's first line...
It's cruiserweights, by the way, if you hadn't figured it out.
It was a tag team cruiserweight
He just
match.
says, get out of the goddamn ring.
So Vince talks about the heritage of the company passing from his grandfather and hopefully to his children someday and their children. And then the key line is where he says, the World Wrestling Federation has always been about honor and integrity. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed and I laughed.
He's so good at delivering these lines in such a deadpan way where everybody knows he's totally full of shit, and they booed so loud when he said that.
Of course.
So awesome.
I mean, even in character, this is 6 months after Montreal. So this character is known to be a liar. He says it is a hard decision and would not be popular with those who had preceded him. He looked to the heavens with that line.
Which actually is true because Vince Sr. did not want Vince Jr. to be a wrestler.
That's true.
That was a shoot.
Yeah. But a man has to do what a man has to do. So will I fight Austin tonight? Oh, hell yeah. He goes to the back, and the announcers are both apoplectic by this. Jim Ross says this is a travesty. It will tear the company apart. Has everybody lost their mind, for God's sakes? They said they thought Vince had no chance. He was going to get hurt, and Ross finally said, look, I'm going to go try and make sure this doesn't happen. And he leaves. Because
in storyline, a guy like Vince should not be in the ring with the World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion.
It's a bad idea.
It's fucking ridiculous. He'll be killed.
Yes. So the tag teams get back in the ring. The lights go out. Everyone assumes Kane is going to come kill them, but instead, Undertaker comes out for what had to be his fastest entrance of all time, including those years he was riding a motorcycle. He power walked down to the ring. He killed the small men who were in there. It was Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor, who were too cool before it was too cool. A couple of luchadors. I think one was Pantera.
Pantera and Aguila.
Mm-hmm. Taker killed them all. So it was time for Big Brother to show Kane what evil was all about. He knew Kane was in the building. He demanded Kane come out. Then they went to commercial. Kevin Kelly is backstage. Says nobody could talk Vince out of wrestling Austin. Ross and Shane were trying to plead their case, but Vince put a stop to it. Orders Shane, go to the car and get my bag. Shane says, this is the dumbest decision you've ever made in your life. And then he left to get the bag.
Well, he's a loyal son, you know.
I guess so. Jeff Jarrett versus Taka Michinoku.
So they got rid of the damn horse. They were like, we can get a horse, or we can drop a bunch of shit from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's drop a bunch of shit from the ceiling. Flyers, I guess, for Jarrett's upcoming concert or something.
Yes, they drop in the ring.
Yeah, they don't drop it around the ring.
No.
They fucking drop it into the ring. And Jeff Jarrett and Taka are fucking slipping all over the place
poor fuckers.
on paper.
This is not confetti where it's a little scrap of paper. These are big, like 8x10s, all covering the wrestling mat. So every time you step, you slip on something.
This is, I think as everybody is well aware, the WWE rings were harder than fuck until Vince decided he wanted to be a wrestler.
They got softer.
Then they got brand new rings that were softer. It's crazy how that works. This is an example of you've got people putting the show together who weren't wrestlers.
Oh, no.
Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to drop fucking paper in the ring with two guys who are going to be running, hitting the ropes, and jumping?
Well, someone who doesn't actually care about the wrestlers or their safety. Fact. So, it's a total squash, of course, because Taka's the light heavyweight champion, which means he sucks. Steve Blackman does an inset promo saying he would get revenge against Jarrett, maybe even during the concert. So they're slipping and sliding all over the place. Eventually, Taka is able to knock Jarrett out of the ring. He preps for his dive, and I'm thinking, no way, dude. If you try to run on this mat, you will slip and break your neck. And thankfully, he was attacked by Men's Teo, Dick Togo, and Funaki, who were at this point being called Club Kamikaze. They attacked him for the DQ, the first time a match had a finish on the show. A disqualification is a finish. And then Jarrett put Taka in the figure four afterwards because why not? This show is shit. Austin did a promo from the locker room saying he was not surprised Vince had accepted his challenge. Said one way or another things would get settled tonight. Patterson and Briscoe were working on strategy with Vince. Okay, this was awesome. You see, they've scouted Steve Austin. They know his most dangerous move is the stunner, but he sets up that move with a kick to the gut. So they worked over with Vince how to counter the kick to the gut.
Oh, man.
And if you're wondering, you catch the foot and then throw all your weight into the knee. Start working over Austin's knee. This is their plan.
Not a parry.
No.
Get out of the way of the foot.
Not a parry, not even a block. A catch.
Huh.
You meet Steve Austin with brute force. Strong style.
You know, in Montreal, Briscoe was the guy that they sent to Shawn Michaels' hotel room to try to teach him some shooting.
I see.
Just in case Brett tried something.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, his crash course in how to be a shooter. Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. It didn't work out that way. Farouk comes out for a promo. He has no shirt. He has taped ribs. Says it would take more than cracked ribs to kick his ass. He gave everyone in the nation a chance to be a star. Tonight he's going to give him a chance to finish the job, and he calls them all out. So Rock comes out, or the nation comes out, and the Rock cut what may have been the first Rock promo.
Oh, man, this guy. It's like every single week he's twice as good as the week before.
Pretty much.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. If you go back even 3 months and you compare him to today, and then go back 3 months before that and 3 months before that.
Yes.
There is nobody in WWE that is improving at the rate that The Rock is improving. Like, not even close.
Or ever.
It's nuts.
There are guys who may have been better out the gate, but no one's improving as quickly as he has. So, he talked about smelling what he was cooking, laying the smackdown, millions and millions of fans watching on TV. And Farouk, finally, they go back and forth a bit, and Farouk raises his fist, and the nation laughs at him because it's still one guy. But then Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman come up behind them. They raise their fists back.
Okay, I just checked, and thank God the 1998 winner of Most Improved was The Rock.
Oh, good.
I just started thinking about it, going, who the fuck else could have possibly won this award? It's impossible.
We should actually look up the whole voting results, see who was like second, third, and fourth. So, Blackman and Shamrock appear behind the nation. The nation turn around, see them, and flee. The 4 men, outnumbered by 2 men, go charging down the ramp to the ring to try to avoid this fight. I laughed at that. Farouk is waiting for them. It turns into a 4-on-3 brawl. Somehow the 3 babyfaces held their own, and things were separated, and that was that. Terry Funk came out for a promo. He says last week, Cactus Jack waddled out of the ring, which is true. Declared he was quitting because the fans were chanting someone else's name. Terry, though, said he's not a quitter. He doesn't give a damn what the fans are chanting. So I need a new partner. I got a new partner. And keeping in mind they were in Philadelphia, his partner was Hardcore.
That's right.
He had never been given a chance because McMahon had never given him a chance. He keeps calling him, he says his own name a lot throughout this. He says, I'm Terry Funk and I'm bringing the funk. And so here's the funk. And out comes Flash Funk.
Yeah.
His long lost brother. Very long, very lost.
Now, Jim Ross called him Too Cold. Mm-hmm. They were, I think the whole idea was, we're in Philadelphia. This guy will be Terry Funk. The other guy will be Too Cold Scorpio. Everybody will go crazy for this. And there were a lot of ECW chants, but He was still Flash Funk.
Yeah, I think he had funk on his tights.
Yeah.
He had a Funk U t-shirt on. Scorpio, of course, had also been in WCW for a few years, so he was a pretty big name. So it was Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio versus the Quebecers. There were ECW chants, of course. We had like a 2-minute match, but boy, they had a fun 2-minute match. And finally, Scorp dodges a cannonball, hits a 450 splash, and then 45 minutes and 41 seconds into the show, not counting commercials, we had our first pinfall or submission.
I couldn't believe my eyes.
An actual finish.
Especially by the time the show was over.
And it was clean.
Like, wow, they actually had a man on a wrestling show pin another man in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
What a goddamn novel concept.
After several tries, by the way. It's not like there had been... It wasn't like the Outsiders attack angle that took up 30 minutes of TV time. There were several matches before this that didn't have a pin. Let's see. Luna came out.
This fucking segment. Oh my god. Luna comes out and she challenges Sable, who I could have sworn they said wasn't there. But then she was later, like 2 minutes later. Fucking Goldust comes out dressed as Sable, and Luna starts ripping off Goldust's clothes. He's got a microphone. This was such horrible television. I cannot bring myself to go back and look at quarter hours and find out if like a ton of people were watching this. I'd kill myself. It was so fucking bad. Oh my god, it was horrid.
All I need to know is that Luna came out. First of all, she was dressed like Captain Stubing for some reason. And there's a very dated reference, but I can't think of a more recent captain who dressed like this. So, it's the Attitude Era. So, whenever two women are angry at each other, they must call each other bitch and slut a lot. And also talk about PMS. Because in Vince Russo's world, that's what women do. They're bitches and sluts and talk about PMS. Yeah. Also, the whole point is that they are... the build-up to the Evening Gala match is you will see a woman stripped to her bra and panties. So Luna comes out here wearing very little more than bra and panties anyway. It's all dumb. Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock versus the New Manette Express.
This fucking thing, this was where, like, I was being tolerant of everything up until this point. I was really annoyed by things, but when they bring out the fucking New Midnight Express, Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman, and we can't even have a goddamn finish in this match.
See, yes,
I was like,
this is the key.
Dude, what? Why?
I'm watching this match, and there was one terribly botched Hurricane Rana, but you take that out, and compared to everything else in the show, this may as well have been the actual Manette Express against the Fantastics. The wrestling in this was very, very good. Then there is a hot tag, as there has been in every single tag match since the Fabulous Kangaroos. There's a four-way, as there has been in every tag match for decades. And in the middle of this four-way, the ref decides, I shall disqualify all these men. This is where I lost it. I screamed. I shrieked. I hit pause. Do you remember, Brian, a couple years back, I was watching a bad episode of Raw. And
where you took a walk?
I was preparing to go on a walk. Now, I was watching this Monday afternoon. I don't know if the weather in Bothell was as bad as the weather in North Bend, but there was a hellacious hailstorm going on. And I looked outside and I said, no, as bad as this episode of Raw is, that weather is worse. So I just stopped the show and like did some deep breathing for 5 minutes to calm down. But no, Blackman, Shamrock, Bart Gunn, not even Billy Gunn, Bart Gunn, and Bob Holly, none of these men could get pinned.
Yeah, I had to keep watching because I was on a timeline. I was so mad. You know, people always talk about how great Jim Ross is. One of the things that's so great about Jim Ross is he's very real. He was so infuriated he could not fucking figure out why this match had been thrown out. He didn't know what the finish was. He was so frustrated. There's nothing like being able to live vicariously through an angry commentator. And I did a little bit get to do that here. He could not believe his eyes. Why the fuck is this match being thrown out? What's the referee doing? Finally just concludes, I guess the ref has seen enough. And I'm like, well, this fucking ref should be fired then because he's a fucking pro wrestling ref. What the fuck do you mean he's seen enough?
So, for the record, I will also state that before the match, there was a Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock stare down, and then Severn left. So I watched this match. I grew red. Veins in my neck began to pulse. Sweat was running down my forehead. I took a break to not go outside. I stayed in the apartment, stayed in my dark apartment watching this old episode of Raw, pondering my fate in life. Finally, I had calmed down enough to restart the show. The first thing I noticed, there's still 45 minutes to go. I almost turned it back off. Vince did a promo from the locker room. He admitted he had butterflies in his stomach, but he was not afraid of the U.S. government. He was not afraid of Ted Turner and Time Warner. And he was not afraid of Stone Cold Steve Austin. At this point in the show, I was already sick of. The Headbangers came out.
Headbangers.
Now, to be fair,
they were killed.
They did nothing. Taker came back out. He killed them both. Lights go out. Kane comes out. Bearer says next week Taker will face Kane not in the ring, but in the cemetery, where they could fight on their parents' graves.
When you say those words, it's like, it's so...
Did no one say this out loud before they sent him out there?
It's so stupid, but you know what? Paul Bearer pulled it off. His delivery of this fucking stupid line. Paul Bearer is one of those guys. I kind of blame Paul Bearer because they gave him the most god-awful dialogue, and somehow he pulled it off every single week. And I guess they just decided, man, this shit works. We'll keep using it for Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker and all these other guys through the years. No, the only fucking guy that could pull this shit off was Paul Bearer, and he was a master. He was so great. I can't even... You're gonna fight on your mommy and daddy's grave. And he said it so good that Ross marked out. He was just like, I can't believe it. So disgusting. He was disgusted by this man. I was like, this is great. This is great. It was probably hated at the time. But these shitty promos are so fucking shitty today that this was great.
Had a Val Venis vignette.
Man.
It was funny.
They had this, he's in his room and you see just some digitized chick walking in the background. I'm like, must have just put some chick in a bikini but digitized her so it would seem that she was naked. Well, about a minute later, she comes over in a bathrobe and sits next to him, tits all over the place.
Yep.
And they had to digitize it again. I was like, no, there's just naked chicks walking around.
Yeah.
Here with Val Venis. What a fucking gig that guy had.
Worked out for him. So first of all, the storyline of this vignette was, it begins with a knock on his dressing room door and telling him it's time to go to the set. It's time for him to perform. And they go backstage.
Looked like he was on the set.
Where he explained, the set is where he performs for the camera. Here it was his casting couch.
I see.
So before he performs here for his own women.
So it's a casting call video as well. 'Cause there were dudes back there with cameras and lighting.
Sure. They exist. So the theme of these jokes was lust in space, which led to all the space-oriented sex jokes you could imagine.
You know, I got to say one thing. I don't know if Vince Russo was the guy that came up with all of this verbiage here, but this fucking guy owned video stores.
Russo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't come up with any better titles than this shit. Lust in space. That's the fucking best you could come up with. Get out of here.
I want to know why Val felt the need to enunciate every word to the ultimate degree.
That's his gimmick.
When he enters the World Wrestling Federation.
Well, he had to talk really slow, so he had to drag it out.
I guess.
I mean,
I understood
I'll say
him.
one
It's better
thing.
than mumbling.
If there's one thing that I could say positive about Vince Russo, like, he was a creative guy.
Sure.
I thought, till I started hearing these fucking porn names he came up with.
Uh-huh.
Lust in space. Like, that's the fucking best you could come up with. I was disgusted.
DX came back out for, as I have written here, Christ knows what. Then, oh, that's right. DX comes out. Their music plays as it did earlier. They come to the ring as they did earlier. And then Owen Hart comes out on stage. Because you see, DX apparently knew Owen wanted to call them out. And so they did him a favor by going out to the ring first. To make it convenient for everyone. So Owen says, I am challenging one of you to a fight. And DX says, to see who would fight you, we had an essay contest. And there's jokes about marijuana, barnyard animals, and Billy Gunn won. So we got Owen Hart versus Billy Gunn. LOD 2000 came out to be in Owen's corner. Match started during a break and then went through another one. Hunter and X-Pac on our commentary burying the Road Warriors. They're old, they're washed up, they're in stupid Halloween costumes, plastic gear. Sunny's she's literally holding the Road Warriors' helmets in her hands, which gave Hunter a line about what she does best in head. He had one face-off between DX and the Warriors, and then just a wrestling match. So the finish was actually, I liked it. Billy's in control. He hits a power slam. He gets up to pose and flex. But he has overestimated his own power slam, and Owen just schoolboys him and pins him.
Can you imagine? A pinfall.
That's 2 on the show.
Yeah, it's not bad. It was all right.
It was fine. It was a perfectly acceptable wrestling match.
It was classic Hunter on commentary. He was funny, but it was just one burial after another.
Yes.
In no way was there an attempt to put the guys over and bury them.
No.
It was just only bury them.
Or to make us want to see a fight.
Yeah.
Just point out everything, point out all their flaws. It just occurred to me, like just here sitting here, Jericho in his second book talks about how when he debuted with this company, he came out and did the thing with The Rock on Raw, everyone remembers, and he was on SmackDown with Taker the next night. And what he was doing, he was funny and he was entertaining, but he was pointing out, especially with Undertaker, he was pointing out flaws in Taker's game then that actually did exist. So he was right in pointing out weaknesses in the babyface, and they had to pull him aside and say, don't do that anymore. Well, here's Hunter doing the exact same thing with the Road Warriors. They are old. They are out there in Halloween costumes. It is kind of silly. That's bad. So it's time for Vince McMahon versus Steve Austin.
It's funny, though. How the fuck would Jericho know any better? He came from WCW. Where they did the same shit.
Kind of his point.
Yeah.
He learned. He had to be smartened up. And I believe he says the Hunter was the one who smartened him up, of all things.
How ironic.
It's amazing. So Vince and his cronies come out. Patterson, Slaughter, and Briscoe. Shane is begging them one last time not to do this. They ignore him. Excuse me. Austin comes out and there's a stare down. And then Vince slaps him in the face. Then Vince cuts a promo. Says Austin, earlier in his promo issuing this challenge, he had claimed he would beat Vince with one arm tied behind his back. And Austin starts laughing. He says, yeah, I said that, but I didn't mean it. But you know what? Fuck it. That's fine. I will beat your ass with one arm tied behind my back. So they pull out a rope. And they go to tie the arm behind Austin's back, but Vince says, no, not the left arm, the right arm. The stunner arm.
That's right. You see, Austin can only do the stunner on one side.
Yes.
Yeah. It takes 10,000 repetitions. You don't want to split those two sides.
No. So they spend several minutes tying Austin's arm behind his back, making sure it's tied tightly. Crowd said Vince was gay. Austin,
yeah. Very, very loudly they were chanting that.
I believe it wasn't that a quote, Vince is gay? Was the chant?
That's what they were chanting. Yeah. And Vince is looking at him laughing.
Yeah. So Austin and Vince are firing up the crowd. Austin's still smiling throughout all this. You get a few minutes of warming Vince up. They give him a thorough pre-match rub down. They've got a mouthpiece for him. This is like 15 minutes of straight stalling.
They were stretching this fucking thing out. I couldn't even believe...
I thought he was going to get out of the ring and do a few warm-up laps.
Now, granted, they had this thing called the Attitude Extra or something at the end of the show. There was like 8 minutes after the cameras go off the air where they just did like a dark match or whatever. They added that to the end of the show, but I didn't know that at the time. So Vince and Austin come out and there's so much time
You're looking
left.
down on the timer and things, so like 20 minutes.
I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do for 20? Now, granted, it wasn't 20 minutes. It was probably closer to 13, but that was still an awfully long time to stretch out no match.
Absolutely nothing.
There was nothing here. But not for 1 second did it drag, because Steve Austin was great at being Steve Austin. Even like the Stooges were awesome at being Stooges. Vince is awesome at being Vince is awesome at being Vince, not Austin. The mouthpiece, the whole 9 yards. It was so awesome.
So finally they're about to lock up, but before the bell can even ring, Dude Loves music hits. And out comes the dude. He wants to know, can't we all just get along? Now, Austin is beside himself. Vince is beside himself. He did not want this to happen.
That's what he claimed.
That's how it appears.
Yes.
Dude says he and Steve are tight. They are, of course, former tag team champions. but Uncle Vinny writes the checks that allow Dude to live the life he likes to live. And he warned Vince, like everyone else.
A life of sweatpants and flannel? What's he talking about?
Have you seen his video? He's traveling around the world.
I guess so.
He warns Vince that Austin would kick his ass. And this, of course, Vince was pissed off. He shoved Dude to the mat. And Dude had been doing the Dude Love voice the entire segment, but when Vince shoved him down, it became the Cactus Jack voice, and he says, "You just made the world's biggest mistake." He starts going after Vince. They're trying to separate him. Austin goes after Dude, but Dude turns around and puts Austin in the mandible claw. Austin, of course, has one arm tied behind his back still. Dude is clawing him. Vince and his crew are just bewildered by all this. They don't know what to make. Clearly the match is off. They all just leave. Dude cuts a promo. When Dude puts a cat down, that cat stays down. He goes after Austin again. Vince from the aisle is pissed at Dude for stealing a spotlight. So Dude calls him out, and Dude and Vince are going face to face. And finally the show ends with Dude putting Austin in the claw on top of the announce desk. Then we got the Raw Extra, or whatever it was.
It was so funny. The moment the cameras are off, Dude turns into Mick Foley. He was just relaxed, fucking around, having fun, clapping his way to the back. It was amazing, the transformation when they shut those cameras off.
And they had a giant brawl, which I didn't realize it was a match until there was a pinfall.
Yeah, it turned into a tag match somehow.
An 8-man tag that went about, I guess, 3 minutes or so. But it was officially LOD, Undertaker, and Austin beat the New Age Outlaws, Triple H, and Kane when Austin pinned Road Dogg with a stunner. Everyone left. Austin celebrated, vowed to beat somebody up next week.
That was a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why they bothered putting it on the network.
No idea.
So, yes, the second hour of that show, especially, well, the finish, I can obviously see why that beat Nitro, but that first hour was so
Well, the first
bad.
and the first part and the last part. And it was a lot of train wreck television. And when you're having a boring Nitro and there's a train wreck on the other channel, a lot of people decided, we'll watch this train wreck.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Raw, number 256 on 4/20/1998.
Let's do some history. Last week was the week that Raw beat Nitro after the 84 weeks or 83 weeks or whatever it was. So here we were, and this was Raw's follow-up.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Nitros, by the way.
Well, Nitro at least had the follow-up of they had a world championship match in the main event. They put the U.S. title on Goldberg.
Yeah.
They were like, man, we got to do something here. These fuckers in WWE, they win 1 week, and then it's like, oh man, let's chokeslam a dude on some bones. Let's do a Montreal screw job, bullshit finish in the main event.
Sure.
Have some horrible matches. We're winning now.
Have Jinder become the #1 contender for the title.
Don't even get me started. I'm not even mad.
Why would you be?
It's the guys who have to work with him who are mad.
You know what I'm the most mad about when it comes to Jinder becoming the #1 contender? It's not the fact that there's never been a world title match with a bigger geek challenging for the title. Do you realize that Jinder's win tonight is his first win since August?
If you had told me it was his first win ever, I would not have doubted you.
There has never been a bigger fucking geek challenging for a title than Jinder Mahal. Sure, he's a nice guy. I mean, he nearly killed Finn Balor last week, but, you know, whatever.
Well, in
but,
his defense, Brian, he's ripped.
You know, he is
So
shredded.
you have to put him in.
He is shredded.
That's nothing else
Kinda
to do.
have
But you know
Diet.
what makes me the most angry about it is not even the fact that he's getting the shot. What makes me the most angry is I actually have to go on Twitter and hear one person after another defending Jinder Mahal getting a championship match. Like, this is why this business is in the state it's in. That I have to hear people defending the fact that Jinder fucking Mahal is getting a world championship match on pay-per-view. Not even on TV. He's getting a championship match on the Backlash pay-per-view or whatever the fuck it's called. A fucking main event pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
And I have people telling me, oh, it's a great idea. He's so much improved. Really? So we're giving out fucking participation medals here again? This bullshit? Fuck off. Let's talk about this other Raw.
Which is no better. Just to start things off on a high note, Kevin Kelly opened the show with a special report from, and I quote, the cemetery.
Yeah.
That's all they ever referred to it as, the cemetery.
You know, there's one on Earth.
Only one.
Yep.
And it is where Kane and Undertaker's parents are buried, and it is conveniently close to the arena in Long Island.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. I'm almost positive Paul said this whole thing happened in Texas, but when they went to the cemetery, it's within driving distance of whatever the Long Island arena is called. Nassau Coliseum or something. So, Dude Love comes out on stage. He has new music, but only for this one segment.
There was a lot of weird music on this show. Like when Rock came out, there was that weird remix of his song that I couldn't even identify. He didn't have it for long, did he?
I don't know. Well, no, because eventually he's not in the nation for long. But the key is they are no longer the nation of domination. They are just the nation now. So that took domination out of it. Anyway, Dude comes out here. Got an interview segment called The Love Shack. Got the hippie van and the beads and the lava lamp everywhere. And Vince comes out. He is disgusted with this hippie decor, which he really would be, actually. I can see that. He says, look, dude, Steve Austin's arm was tied behind his back. I was going to humiliate and embarrass him, but you ruined it. I am fining you $5,000.
You know, I was kind of hoping that he was going to fine him like $500. But then I realized that it is, in fact, a conspiracy. And so in order for Vince to convince the fans that he was not in on this, he's got to give the man an alleged, believable fine. $5,000.
He warned Dude to stay out of his business, and he left. So Dude tried to explain his actions to the fans. He said he had been trying to make peace when Austin had attacked him from behind. He said, yes, they had been tag team champions once, but they always had problems. And he blamed the problems on the chicks and also the pussycats. Specifically, he said, hot women liked Dude and ugly women liked Austin. He very casually announced here that he would be challenging Austin for the World Championship on pay-per-view in 6 days. And then he said he was willing to forfeit his title shot if Austin would come out and grovel on his knees. Turns out that didn't happen. Farouk versus a member of the nation in a Long Island street fight. Turned out to be Kama.
The Long Island street fight was the length of this goddamn match. The week after winning, they opened up with a 7-minute match between Farouk and Kama. Can you imagine?
I didn't think there's anything wrong with this match at all.
It was fine for a while.
Are you defending Jinder on Twitter too while you're at it? Holy shit, this fucking match was terrible. And it just went on forever.
It wasn't terrible, but it did go on forever. You're both right. So, finally, Farouk takes off his cowboy boot. Yes, he was wearing cowboy boots in this. It was a street fight. He walloped Kama in the head with it, hit a spine buster, and won. DX was watching a tape of themselves pissing on the DOA's bikes a few weeks back.
They don't even have footage that's not censored.
No.
Yeah.
What a bunch of geeks.
They probably taped it, brought the tape with them.
Yeah.
So Billy noted that he and X-Pac and Road Dogg had been pissing, but Hunter had not, and he dared Hunter to take his dick out.
That's what he said.
Hunter agreed to piss on something.
Yep.
Ross said he was going to urinate on the crowd. I was so confused. Why would this make me want to stay tuned?
Well, see.
Have you watched any of DX?
Well, there's that.
What do they do at all that would make a rational person want to stay tuned?
That's a fair question.
Yeah, Hunter got in a lot of quips about how big his unit was and said, I'd take it out right now. And he said, and I'll throw it on the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah.
It's a very weird
Why is he
crew.
always talking about his dick?
Insecurity.
Yeah.
It's
I
the same
guess.
insecurity we have seen for the past 2 decades.
Huh.
He's probably overcompensated.
Bet you he drives a lifted truck, too.
Well, who are you to talk?
I don't have a lifted truck.
Dude, Craig's got the biggest truck I've ever seen. Like, I needed a stepladder to get into that truck.
I have a new one, Brian.
Woods is bigger.
It's probably even... Well, of course it is. But Wood actually needs a giant truck.
So DX came out, starting to get cheers. Parent of the Year award goes to the owner of the crotch-chopping 4-year-old. I'll put that out there. So, let's see. Hunter's facing Owen on the pay-per-view. China is just going to be in a cage above the ring. They're booking this whole pay-per-view on 6 days' notice. It's like they forgot.
Well, you know, at least it's consistent because they did that one match in NXT where that dude had to be in the shark cage for absolutely no fucking good reason. It's just like,
A
hey,
toy came out.
let's do something. Let's put this chick in a cage.
Yeah. They did a total babyface promo sucking up to the crowd. Road Dogg plugged their title match against LOD 2000, also on the pay-per-view. So the big joke was Billy dares Hunter to take out his dick, and they all huddle together, and Hunter takes off his trench coat, and he's got a super soaker squirt gun, and he's spraying the crowd, and he's talking about one more pump, and I'm ready to blow, and all the usual things you'd guess. Out come LOD and Owen.
It is still amazing that on one channel you've got the New World Order, and the WWE's response to the New World Order is to create DX, which was actually edgy when Shawn Michaels was there. They get rid of Shawn Michaels, and it's a clown show. It's a bunch of grown men acting like 8-year-olds.
Yes, that is the gimmick.
They're pretending to pee on the crowd with a super soaker. Is that what's called? That fucking gun?
Yeah.
I just can't even believe it. Who's watching this? Does this get better?
Well,
I always thought that the post Shawn Michaels DX sucked. And over the years, I've heard all of the romanticizing about this crew, and I thought, you know what, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I just didn't get it at the time. I still don't get it. I'm still waiting, because they suck right now.
so Owen and LOD come out, and Sarge teases stopping them. Then he books...
And Sonny.
Sonny was also there, striking tough poses.
Sarge made sure to grab her on the way down.
Ah,
the
I
ramp.
see.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So they issue a challenge to DX, and Sarge books the match. Hunter responds by bravely accepting the challenge and getting the crowd to chant his catchphrase like a good heel. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Vince, this was nothing, but it was awesome. Vince is backstage, pacing, looking pissed off. A very nervous lackey approaches him with a cup of coffee. And she holds it out, and she's terrified. And Vince leers at her, and he takes the coffee, and he beckons her to leave, and she goes, and then Vince takes a sip, and it's pretty good coffee. He's pleased.
Not bad.
Kevin Kelly alerted us that The Undertaker was nearly at the cemetery.
Now, how did Kevin Kelly know this? Does he have on-the-spot reporters every half mile?
Yeah, he's a reporter. Of course.
Okay.
He's got inside sources.
I see.
Taker was driving a convertible, like a smart car, and his head's popping out the top.
Sure.
So Kelly could see him from a mile away.
He's probably riding a horse.
I would imagine a hearse.
One of those later. All right. I don't think ever in my life I have been excited to see a Headbangers match.
Right.
History was made when I saw we were going to get a one-on-one Mosh versus Dan Severn.
What a match it was.
Here we go. I couldn't wait for this.
Did you hear one of the announcers? I didn't write it down. One of the announcers says, Mosh, a great amateur wrestler in his own
Oh,
right."
yes. They were, yes. And Severn, a pro, let Mosh get like 2 takedowns in the match. And then immediately countered them and escaped.
Which, by the way, was fucking preposterous.
Of course it is.
No one's taking down Dan Severn.
Not a
Especially
headbanger.
Mosh.
Yeah. So, let's see. It's mostly Dan throwing suplex after suplex and paintbrushing the guy in the back of the head. It really wasn't that great a beating, but God, I enjoyed it. Thrasher on the floor.
Can we talk more about the actual match?
Okay.
It consisted
Yes,
of this.
I'd love to.
So there were the goofy takedowns, and then like Dan Severn would grab him and he would suplex him, and then he would pick him up and he would suplex him.
It was.
He would pick him up and he would suplex him.
Right.
It was so... I don't even know how to describe it.
The more you watch this, the more you realize that if you take Brock Lesnar and remove all charisma, you get Dan Severn.
Well, I mean, there wasn't even like any... There were no transitions between suplexes.
No.
It was like, I will lift you up and throw you in the air onto the ground. And then I'm going to lift you up.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it again.
What?
For 2 minutes and 21 seconds.
Which is exactly what Brock Lesnar does these days. The only difference is Dan wasn't doing just only Germans.
No,
He
Brock
did,
will...
gut wrenches. And,
Brock will leer at the crowd.
I see.
Yes, he will smile.
Well-
He will leer at them. He will acknowledge chants. Dan Severn just picked him up and suplexed him again.
I'll say it again. He is Brock Lesnar minus all charisma. But the suplexes are cool. Now, as noted, in my brief failed independent wrestling career, I was a horrible striker. Reggie Magnet once told me, whatever you're doing with your arm, stop it. I promise you, I never threw a punch any worse than the one Thrasher threw at Jim Cornette on the floor.
But Jim Cornette took an amazing bump for
Well, Jim Cornette's a better worker than Thrasher. He managed to throw a punch leading with his elbow and hit Cornette like in the shoulder blade.
Yeah. I think he was
You had one job, Glenn!
I think he was trying to be nice. You know?
Because Cornette's never been punched before. He's never had to sell a punch.
I understand that.
He's never worked with Jerry Lawler or anything.
Well, there's a big difference between Jerry Lawler and Mosh.
That's clear.
Yeah. You can write that down.
What's
Anyway.
that difference?
There's actually thousands.
I don't want Brutal Bob to get upset with us and take a photo with the Headbangers again.
So anyway, this horrible punch was so awful it distracted Dan Severn. Saying, geez, what a shitty punch that was. Mosh got one more takedown. Severn turned it into a shoot power slam where he just picked this guy up and threw him down to the earth as hard as he could. Hooked an armbar for the win.
No. He hooked an armbar, but then I guess they did an edit for some reason or something. It was like he started to put it on, but then they switched camera angles and he was putting it on totally differently. I don't know what happened here. Maybe the guy, I don't know what happened. This match was amazing.
Yes, it was.
I just love that. The thing, I've got more about Brock Lesnar and Dan Severn, their differences. Because unlike Craig, I can explain the differences between these men, as opposed to Mosh and Jerry Lawler. So, Brock will throw great pro wrestling suplexes. Dan was showing, he was throwing shoot suplees.
I see.
Yes. There was no pro wrestling technique to it. It was, I'm going to lift you up, hold you real tight, and fucking throw you on the ground. That's my suplex. Over and over again. I loved it.
No, you're not wrong.
You hear me, Craig? I loved it.
Yeah, I heard you.
It was grand. Meanwhile, back at the cemetery, Kelly says Taker has arrived, walked into a building, screamed, and left.
I want a tape of this. I've never heard The Undertaker scream.
Taker appears out of nowhere. He accosts Kelly, grabs him by the lapels, takes him to the ground, and demands to know where they are and where they went. As they went to commercial, The Undertaker was choking Kevin Kelly to death.
You know, it's a good time to cut away for a message from our sponsor.
We'll get back to you. It's only Kevin Kelly.
You know, it was at that moment when I realized, oh my God.
This is that show.
Yeah.
I thought this was much later.
No.
I was wrong.
Here's the thing about where this is going. I know I was watching wrestling on this night because I do remember Goldberg and Raven from Nitro. But I have no recollection of the big angle on Raw with Taker and Kane. But I do remember you describing it in the newsletter. And what you described, I can quote it word for word because it's what happened. You didn't embellish. You didn't use flowery language. You didn't plain language as possible. You just said what happened and let the absurdity stand for itself, as we shall get to.
You know, well.
But I don't remember, my point is I don't remember watching it at all. I just skipped Raw that
Well,
night,
here's what's weird about it. When the incident occurs, which we will recap soon, it's as vivid as if it happened yesterday. I remember every last single. I remember the camera angle.
Yes.
I remember where everything was. I remember the bump. I remember Undertaker fixing his fucking shirt so he couldn't see his belly in the middle of this important angle. But you know what? I don't remember anything else on this show.
Well,
I don't remember the Dude Love music and segment.
I
don't
Super
remember
Soaker.
this shitty finish at the end of the show. I don't remember a goddamn thing on the show, but boy, do I remember this angle. I don't even remember the shit at the cemetery.
no. So they go to break with Kelly being choked to death. When they come back, he's alive and well. Taker is gone. Kelly says Taker has left. He is on his way back to the arena, which again is thankfully a short drive. Goldust versus Bradshaw. So there's a evening gown match at the pay-per-view with Sable versus Luna, with the loser being theoretically stripped to their bra and panties,
Correct.
and thus, I guess, humiliated.
Sure.
Luna is out here of her own free will
Yes.
in bra and panties.
Yep. Tell him, Vince.
Bra and thong, in fact.
Well, she has made it clear that in this bra and panties match, she is going to strip Sable down not only to her bra and panties, but of everything.
Right.
Because you see, it's not that humiliating.
Apparently
Luna,
not.
to be in your bra and panties.
Well, clearly, actually. the way
you
she-
must be stripped nude.
Well, to be fair, Luna did have a skirt on. Granted, it was completely see-through.
It was, yes. Like, beyond sheer. It was just...
Right.
It was like saran wrap.
It was plastic.
Yeah. So Goldust and Bradshaw had a fun brawl for a while. And then, out of nowhere, Club Kamikaze runs in and attacks Bradshaw for the DQ.
I totally don't remember that name either. I remember Kai and Tai.
Sure.
I do not remember this period where they were Club Kamikaze, which is, by the way, classic WWE.
Sure.
We got 3 dudes from Japan. Club Kamikaze.
Yes.
Perfect.
If you're Japanese men, you can call them kamikazes or ninjas or samurai or sushi chefs, and that's all they have in Japan. So that's what we will call them.
My son wandered into the room around this time.
Or use fake Chinese lettering for Japanese guys.
Also.
Another popular
Yeah.
tactic.
My son wandered into the room about this time, took a seat on the couch, and sat with Dad for a bit. I knew I was going to have him close his eyes sooner or later, but he looked at these 3 men attacking, and he said, "Dad, are those little people?"
That's funny.
I said, "No, son. They're just
The answer
very
actually is yes. They were little people.
By the definition of the term.
Literally by 1 inch, they were out of the minis division in CMLL.
small." I said, "Watch Dick Togo. He's the man."
I did not know that.
Yeah, 5'2".
Wow. Steve Austin came out for a promo. He said he knew last week that Vince had been lying when he said there was no challenger. This whole thing is a conspiracy between Vince and Dude Love.
Do you notice, by the way, that unlike in 2017, when the heel authority figures are the smart ones and the baby faces are fucking idiots, not for one moment did Steve Austin believe this. He knew that these 2 fuckers were in cahoots. He knew before the fans, because he's the babyface and he's smart.
Right.
Well, on a similar note, he admitted that no, of course, he could not beat up Dude Love with one arm tied behind his back. This was an unfair fight and Dude would beat his ass every time. But he noted he would always get back up and get payback. Maybe not that day, but eventually there would be hell to pay.
Well, you don't want to make your opponent seem weak.
No.
Because then if you beat somebody, you beat somebody that's weak.
Yeah. And also you're trying to sell a pay-per-view here.
Absolutely.
So he did basically
It's like a
admit that
foreign language.
He shot his own mouth off.
Essentially. But he's going to get his payback in the end. And he did. So he vows to kick Dude's ass, vows to kick Vince's ass, and starts tormenting and harassing all the ringside geeks. And that was that. Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio versus the new Manette Express.
Actually, it's
Yeah, this is how...
TCS Funk.
That's how the ring announcer
How about that?
described him. I caught at the end of the match. I didn't catch it at the beginning.
Actually, on the graphic, when they were introducing
Did it?
him, it said TCS Funk.
Oh, I didn't notice that. The announcer just called him Too Cold Scorpio.
That's what they should have done in the beginning.
Yes.
Well, they didn't want to confuse the audience because we all know it's really Flash Funk.
Sure.
You know? So now that this is news, Bob Holly's long hair was so awful.
No, it was horrible.
It's so much better when he buzzed his head.
Oh, yeah.
So they're doing this tag match, and it turns into a 4-way, and there's pile drivers, and Funk gets dragged outside, and Scorpio does a big dive, and then Scorpio does a moonsault, but Holly gets the knees up, and finally Scorpio hits a 450 for the win anyway. Just kind of a mess of a match.
I love that Dan Severn's outside in his suit and his fucking awesome mustache. Some dudes can just pull off the mustache.
Yes.
He's standing out there and they do the deal and Scorpio, or they both go up top. At first they both went up top and he starts moving in that direction. And Scorpio ends up shoving the dude off and he goes up top and he's going to go for the 450. And I thought, well, Dan Severn's clearly going to interfere here. No. Scorpio does a 450. Dan Severn has the opportunity. He could jump. He's right there at ringside. He could jump in the ring and break it up. Nope. He allows his man to get pinned, and then he calmly gets in the ring and just suplexes the shit out of Scorpio.
Yes.
TCS, I apologize.
Yes. And then Terry Funk makes the save with a chair.
He doesn't care who wins. He's just there to do his job.
Sure.
Suplex people.
Yeah.
And by the way, did he borrow this suit jacket from Undertaker? It was a little ill-fitting. It was
How
way
dare
big.
you?
I'm telling you.
You know he comes to this area every now and then,
I'm
Craig.
just telling you.
He's
he
going to
had
be
it-
at one of these shows one of these days you're at.
Okay.
I'm going to point you out.
Do you know how much fun Dan Severn would be at Defy?
Dude, did you guys see the Dan Severn Matt Riddle match?
No.
Yes.
Oh my God, this thing was fucking awesome.
I bet it was. I believe you.
Listen, Dan Severn's 58, and I can't remember when there was an MMA show up here that he fought on, or he was supposed to fight on, but they wouldn't let him fight because his opponent had no experience.
Well, that's
Which
a
is
good thing then,
ridiculous.
yes.
Thank you, Washington State, for
But
saving
anyway,
this
he was
man.
probably like 52 years old or something.
Okay.
But I saw him at the show, and he could barely move. This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, Dan Severn and Matt Riddle. He's 58 years old. It's going to be a disaster. They had the most fun fucking match you ever seen. It was like a UFC fight. And Dan's right in there. He's doing all his suplexes. He's throwing the guy around. It was awesome. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
So they kept repeatedly, a hearse had arrived. This is like the third time they showed it. All it would do was like drive forward and park,
Yeah.
and then drive somewhere else and park. They just kept shuffling it around the parking lot for a while.
Well, you don't want to give away your location when you're
You know,
On
sometimes
national
you
TV,
park and you see that it's handicap.
sure.
You got to move.
Well,
No hearses parking here.
Then you see it's a loading zone. And you think you can get away with it, but then there's a security
there
guy.
is no more handicapped than dead. I'm just saying.
Well, Paul's not dead.
He's handicapped.
He didn't have a sticker.
That's the worst fortune cookie of all time. So anyway, the hearse finally stops for the 8th time, and out steps a very disheveled pallbearer. Actually, no, I'm jumping ahead. He
he's
comes out
been
later.
digging.
I'm jumping ahead of myself.
This guy couldn't even find a dude with a shovel.
No,
He did the digging himself.
I don't think he found a shovel by the time we saw him. I think he and Kane were digging with their bare hands.
Kane did have his gloves.
Point. Another Val Venis vignette. He's in the shower with 2 ladies, and he's coming and tells the women to get the rest now. I hope he shows up next week.
Okay, about this time, my wife wanders into the room.
Oh.
And I've got my hand over my son's eyes. Please don't watch this. Cover your ears. My wife surveys the situation. The ladies climb out of the shower, and she notes, gosh, their makeup looks good for just getting out of the shower.
It's almost like pouring his work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
You know? Anyway.
So Sable comes out for a promo in her evening gown. Michael Cole repeats the claim that Luna has promised to strip her nude, and everyone cheered.
This is when I sent my son out of the room.
Just gave up. Son, this show's not for
I think
you.
she's going to start stripping right now.
I was not sure where it was going, Brian.
So Sable
You
noted.
got to pay for this, Craig. It's a pay-per-view.
I understand.
Sable noted her body could not humiliate her. She could care less if Luna stripped her naked. It would be worth it to get her hands on Luna.
My wife also noted that her breasts are cartoonish.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Sure are.
It's a great cartoon.
God bless.
I love the comics.
So, yeah. Sable did not deny she'd be naked, and she implied she'd be fine with that. Which, as pay-per-view sales go, there's worse things you could do. Here is where Paul Bearer and Kane stepped out of the limo covered in dirt.
By the way, there's one limo, and the size of these
Or
caskets.
hearse, I should say. yeah.
Okay, the size of these caskets, not one of them could fit into the hearse.
No, one was in it, and one was outside.
They had 2.
I know. When they were backstage, there was one on the floor and there was one inside.
Yes, but at the...
So we have
This-
to presume that one was tied to the roof of the hearse.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perhaps there were multiple hearses, and that's why they all kept arriving.
You know, that's possible.
That would actually make sense.
That's possible.
One hearse for each casket, one hearse for Paul, one hearse for Kane, and a
We
backup
can
hearse.
imagine that Kane was driving one of the hearses.
Sure.
Man, good thing he didn't get pulled over.
Stopped at the drive-thru. Give me anything spicy. Right. Oh, let's see. So Michael Cole goes to talk to Vince. Now you know how in 2017 we've all realized that Vince McMahon has
I
groomed
said
Michael
this.
Cole into be a younger version of
I
himself.
told you guys.
It started in 1998 when I realized, holy shit, they have the exact same hair.
I told you.
It's like Vince was a Lego piece,
No,
and
but-
you took the hair off and put it over on a smaller thing.
But here's what you don't get. They have the same hairdo, but you have to go back to the early 80s when Vince was a young announcer. Fucking looks exactly like Michael Cole.
Now,
It's creepy.
Do you think that's his doing or Cole's doing?
No, it's Vince's doing.
Are you sure about
I'm positive. Vince hires people that look like a young him.
There's no
And he
way.
hires girls that look like a young Stephanie.
Okay.
Like Dasha.
Yeah. I can't wait
telling
to
you.
get to the frosted tips era of Michael Cole.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, Vince denied there was a conspiracy against Austin, but said he was ready to fight tonight. We had Owen Hart and LOD 2000 versus Triple H and the New Age Outlaws.
A pretty fun little match.
They, in selling the pay-per-view, said it was coming from Greensboro, which Jim Ross noted is Ric Flair country. That was weird.
Well, it wasn't weird because Flair and WCW were at odds.
I see.
Bischoff had just sued him,
Oh, okay.
and they were hoping that Flair could get out of his deal and go to WWF.
So it was
Didn't happen.
It was a fun little match, mainly because Owen left the Warriors in the apron forever. They beat on Owen, and beat on Owen, and beat on Owen. He would just make his own comeback, and then get cut off again, and then make his own comeback, and get cut off again. Eventually, he tagged out. It broke down into a bad six-way, where at one point, Hawk was... Remember when Samito got a hot tag and hit the ring and shouted, "I'm a house of fire," and there's no one to hit?
Yep.
That's what Hawk did. He just hits the middle of the ring and just looks around and there's no one there. So, okay, the finish got very convoluted. Let's see. They hit Road Dogg with the Doomsday device. China tried to kidnap Sonny. Hawk left to beg for Sonny's life. X-Pac hit Animal with a chair. Gunn hit Animal with a pile driver and pinned him. And that was that.
I'm glad you wrote all that down.
It was a lot. We saw Paul Bearer and Kane like they'd been rolling in mud for an hour, wheeling a dirty casket out of a hearse. They went to a break.
Are you telling me that Paul Bearer was dirty?
I think I've mentioned that a few times.
Yeah, like 5.
Yeah. It's my job to report that Paul Bearer has not showered.
Did the Nitro Girls dance on this show?
He may have.
Okay, just checking.
All right, they came in on stage, pristine clean. No, they're still dirty. So...
He's messing with you, Brian.
You know, we can presume that they were dirty for the rest of the show.
Okay, I won't bring it up again.
I mean, if it's important.
Bearer explains that they had dug up the Undertaker's parents so Taker could give them a proper funeral.
I do love that that's so important to this story.
That is a shitty bit of logic.
They're dirty. You know what I mean? They were dirty, Craig. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure that we all know that they were digging.
Brian, why don't you take over since I'm doing such a horrible job of this?
I will. So remember when you said that I recapped this and you remembered exactly what I wrote?
Yes.
To this day? Mm-hmm. Tell me if it's better than what Dave wrote.
All right.
Kane and Paul Bearer came out with caskets, and they set the casket on Undertaker's father on fire. Undertaker came out for the save, but Kane chokeslammed him into his mother's casket, and they showed close-ups of rotted out bones and worms all over the place. The end.
Yes, because you use shorter sentences. You just said things bluntly. They brought out 2 caskets. Undertaker appeared. They put gas on a casket. Kane set a casket on fire. Taker charged. And the one sentence I remember crystal clear, Kane chokeslammed Undertaker on his dead mom's bones.
So I guess we both did write the exact same
Just
thing.
what happened. Let the absurdity speak for itself.
It's fucking hilarious 19 years later looking back thinking, that's all we wrote about this? Like, I could write a book about this nowadays.
So, Bearer and Kane leave. Taker sort of rolls around and they zoom in on what is supposed to be his mother's bones.
It was a bone.
There's a few. One like thigh bone off to the side.
Right.
One like femur from, and she may have been as tall as her son.
I was going to say,
huge.
she was 10 feet tall.
Yes.
Judging by the size of this bone.
How come Taker didn't get impaled by ribs or something?
They broke.
I see.
I don't know. They've been decomposing for 20 years or whatever it's been.
Let's talk about the bigger issue that on this show, Kane chokeslammed The Undertaker onto his parents' bones.
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
And this is offensive only to Undertaker. To Kane, it's just fine.
Well, it's Kane's parents too.
Exactly.
How did
Why is
wrestling
he not
continue
pissed?
for one day after this
I
angle?
don't know. Why? Whoever turned the show on ever again?
Like, what?
And Taker kind of sits up and
We're
says,
supposed to believe that The Undertaker's parents were both buried in the city that Raw was in this evening.
Yes.
Paul Bearer, a grown man, goes to the cemetery.
Was he dirty?
In the fucking afternoon, by the way. Not like in the middle of the night. The show airs at 5 Pacific.
Sure.
This guy in the middle of the day went to the cemetery with, I guess, a shovel. We don't know. Dug up 2 fucking caskets. Nobody called the cops. This is a crime. Are you aware of this?
I know, yeah.
You can't dig up graves.
Not even in Long Island?
He gets the 2 caskets. He's rented hearses, which I guess is believable.
Sure.
He's pallbearer. Drives him to the goddamn building. He's backstage. I mean, everyone's seen him.
How could
That's
you
made
not?
abundantly clear. Nobody's done anything about this. He brings him out onto the ramp. There's dead bodies in these caskets.
They laid out a tarp.
We are led to believe.
They laid out a tarp, too, for him.
And then the Undertaker is chokeslammed onto the bones of his dead mother and father, one of which was lit on fire, which is arson. Grave digging and arson.
Sure.
Grave robbery. It is legal to dig graves.
That's true.
And should be.
Grave robbery and arson.
And assault.
I mean,
That's the least of our worries, but...
Can you really burn, like, without their consent, a dead person's body? Like, that's also, it's got to be a crime.
Yes.
This is the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Did we mention, by the way...
How did we write 2 sentences about this to be done with it?
Did we mention that that the Undertaker's father was apparently, his skeleton was constructed entirely of gasoline? Because this casket went up.
It sure did
It was
go
an
up.
inferno.
What in the fuck? And then Dave, like, he writes, they showed close-ups of rotted out bones and worms all over the place. Finally, McMahon came out as an announcer for Dude Love. He just moved on.
Would you want to dwell on it?
I've been dwelling on it now for about 5 minutes.
Solid point.
I could go for another hour.
Solid point.
You were mad that Braun Strowman tipped over an ambulance? That's like not even in the fucking universe.
This is
You
worse.
should have watched this first.
This is worse. This is significantly worse. This is worse than almost everything I've ever seen. This is beyond horrible. So they go to the break. They come back, and Michael Cole lets us know that the remains of Undertaker and Kane's parents have been moved to a secure location. Well, thank God.
Where the fuck were you guys earlier tonight?
You've had hours.
I mean, hello? What did you think Paul was going to do when he dug up them graves?
He also said, the look on Undertaker's face, well, I'll never forget it.
Man, oh man.
That's all you got? Was
Yeah.
he sad? Was he angry? Was he humiliated as I would have been?
I guess we just got to imagine.
Was it blank? But whatever it is, he won't forget
I
it.
presume he was sad.
So Vince came out to do commentary for Dude Love versus Steve Blackman. How awesome was Vince McMahon on commentary?
Dude, Vince McMahon is awesome on
He's
commentary. He's always great.
He's so awesome.
And you know what was amazing about it is you watch wrestling nowadays and they come on TV and they do storylines where guys make fun of other guys for being wrestlers. And Vince doesn't allow people to say wrestling or title or belt or any of that shit. Now I watch his show and Vince McMahon's talking about wrestling. My mind was blown.
Yeah.
It's like he does understand wrestling.
He does.
He does know these words.
So he explains. First he says he guarantees something catastrophic will happen at Unforgiven or your money back.
Too late.
Over to the last segment?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Didn't Brent at one time try to get his money back from a pay-per-view because what they promised didn't happen?
I tried to get my money back for TNA one time.
Yeah, but Brent actually succeeded.
It's pretty impressive.
I think it was this.
If anybody could succeed, it's Brent.
It's true. You just pay him to go away.
Yeah. Dude, we'll give you your money. Just shut the fuck up and get out of here.
So Vince promises he's going to be at ringside for Austin Love at the pay-per-view and teased Earl Hebner would be the ref, and Earl has not been seen since Montreal. So during this match, and Dude catches Blackman in an abdominal stretch, and the bell immediately rings and Dude's music plays. The ref is bewildered. Blackman is irate. He goes to confront the bell ringer, and he grabs him by the collar and sort of throws him back over his shoulder onto the mat. Vince is appalled. It's absurd to treat a timekeeper like this, he says. Austin runs out, levels Dude, goes after Vince, and I don't know if they planned it this way or just how it turned out, but he grabs Vince by the lapels and throws him to the ground just like Blackman had thrown the timekeeper.
I loved earlier when Blackman's yelling at the timekeeper and Vince sternly says, "Control your temper."
Yes. Why is Vince not on TV? So, Dude and Austin are brawling. Vince is in the ring, ready for a fight. He wants to fight Austin. He's pissed at Dude for stopping him from fighting. Finally, Austin gets the better of Dude and he gets in the ring. But by this time, Patterson and Briscoe are there trying to talk Vince out of fighting. So Austin takes out Patterson, stuns him, takes out Briscoe, stuns him, turns to fight Vince, but now Vince has left the ring. That was awesome. That was fucking amazing. And Dude and Austin brawled some more. Austin got the better things again, and the show ended with Austin running up the ramp after Vince. All anyone remembers is the unbelievably horrible stuff from the show. But if you take that out, it was okay.
Yeah, and it is funny to think that if you didn't know where history was leading and you were just watching this show, you'd be thinking, they're using Cactus Jack as a setup man for Vince McMahon versus Steve Austin. What a fucking crazy thought.
Yes, it is.
But at the end, it was the right idea.
Well, I'll get going then.
Yeah, let's get going. Please.
Retro Raw 257, April 27th, 1998. So this is the day after the Unforgiven pay-per-view, where Vince had promised there'd be a catastrophe or your money back, which is an odd thing to promise.
I'm not sure if he said a catastrophe. He promised that there would be
something catastrophic.
Something catastrophic, I guess so. I guess that is a catastrophe.
I would think so.
I still don't know what it was.
Well, there's several options. They showed Kane being on fire.
Kane was on fire.
The Road Warriors killed a referee.
Road Warriors killed a ref.
The one that they showed, so China, for no reason with no build, was hanging in a cage above the ring for I think it was Hunter and Owen.
That's how they normally do these shark cage matches. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
So they did this one so China could try to escape by bending the bars, but she's still up in the air. So there's a shot of her hanging by her hands from this cage a good 20 feet off the arena floor. What in the hell were they thinking?
Well, you see, they didn't give a shit about anybody during this period. And you know, it's funny. I was just talking to Dave about the dumpster match, which I'm sure Vinny has not seen yet.
Nope.
Just you wait. Just you wait until you watch that Raw. That was the worst fucking Raw I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, great.
So, talking to Dave about it, and he alerts me that the dumpster angle they did with Foley and Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, where they got thrown off the edge of the stage, and the thing got opened up, and there's all this foam and shit in there.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Terry Funk got badly injured.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, at the end of the show, McMahon swings his championship belt at Briscoe.
Yeah.
Fucking cuts this guy open 6 ways from Sunday.
Yeah.
It was not a blade job.
No, definitely not.
Vince got waylaid with a chair at the pay-per-view. Ken Shamrock somehow had torn ligaments. That's why they got rid of him. Just one catastrophe after another. So I guess he was right. He could have offered his money back on any show during the Monday Night Wars, I'm pretty sure. Because there was a catastrophe on virtually every show.
So the announcers ran down the results of the pay-per-view and then said, earlier today, here on Monday afternoon, Degeneration X had invaded WCW at the Norfolk Scope 15 minutes down the road.
Yep.
The first of many DX skits. So Hunter, of course, is the general. He's laying down the law. And they're all, have helmets on, they're all in camo. Billy Gunn has tree limbs in his helmet to help him hide in a bush or something.
In the city. Yes.
In the city. So they're all laughing. They're all goofing off. Fair chance they were stoned.
No, you're right.
They're just having fun. Dick jokes aplenty. So Hunter's speech is about we're going to invade hostile territory. And eventually they climb into a Jeep which has a large gun on it. And they drive away. And the camera pans to watch them drive away. Then it pans back to the riverbank where it zooms in on a sign that reads, "No fishing, crabbing, boating, or swimming."
Right.
I don't know why, but I laughed at that.
Well,
that was the best part of this whole thing.
They thought that was a funny sign.
I did too.
Go ahead.
Somebody on the board had mentioned this. Many people have mentioned this, actually. All of the younger folk. Here's the thing. We're watching this now when we're 40. It's fucking so horrible. We got a lot of guys on the board that were watching this when they were like 10. And to them, it was awesome. We watch it, and it's like, the NWO was kind of cool. These guys are just complete geeks. Just complete geeks. But you know what? Their sophomoric humor was effective for the youngsters watching. And those youngsters, like as much as people talk about the kids today, there were more kids watching during the Monday Night Wars than today by like double.
Yeah.
There were way more kids watching back then. This shit was right up their alley. So we can hate it all we want, but this sophomoric, goofy, childish stupidity was super over with the audience that was watching the show. Blows my mind, but I'm not 10.
I tweeted out the if Raw was a party 19 years ago, these were the dudes you'd have to politely ask to leave.
Like me, every time I went to a party at Big Woods,
He never asked you to leave.
he
just
carried
made
me
you
out. Yeah.
I will be the dissenting voice here. I am a sophomore man. I certainly was when I was 24, when this came out.
Sure.
22. Anyway, I enjoyed this mainly because how often have we talked about how in modern wrestling, especially in, well, WWE and TNA, it always seems like a chore for everyone to be there. These dudes were legit having fun. That made it fun for me. Yes, it was silly. Yes, it was stupid. Yes, it was juvenile, but it was fun.
I'll take your word for it.
We're going to have Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart versus Mark Henry and The Rock. You know how advertisers don't spend money on wrestling despite the high ratings it gets because they're not big fans of the typical wrestling fan demographic? Am I close to that being accurate?
Yeah.
It doesn't help when wrestling fans bring signs saying things like China is a man and then Vince rapes China.
Well,
I would not advertise my product to you people either. Rock does a promo, says finally the people's champ has come to
creeps
Hampton.
have money too.
I guess. So Owen wants to start the match, but then Shamrock demands to. So Owen tags him in and then kicks him in the balls, hits a spinning kick. And they quintuple team Shamrock, Pillmanize his ankle. Steve Blackman runs out, he gets beat up. Farouk runs out, he gets beat up. And Owen puts Shamrock in the sharpshooter and they edit in snapping bones sound effect. Or they went out and found whatever Marty Scurll was doing in 1998 and had him make the noise. But yeah, so Shamrock clearly on the shelf for a while.
I do enjoy the fact that you can't turn people every single week. Like, if someone turns, they should stay that way for a while before they turn back. Otherwise, nobody cares. It took him a long time to turn Owen Hart, when it was very clear he was badly miscast as a babyface.
They needed to turn him, but this came from out of nowhere.
It did. There's no reason.
Well, I don't care. He was a fucking terrible, terrible babyface. Thank God he's now a heel.
After the break, Shamrock was being helped to the back. He threatened to kill his ass. Assume he meant
he was going to
Owen.
kill his ass?
That's what he said.
Man, I'm going to kill your ass?
That's what he said.
Wow. I knew he screamed something, but I didn't care enough to go back. It's Shamrock.
All right,
Could have just been random profanities.
All right, this episode of Raw is famous, or perhaps you would say notorious, for the DX invasion angle. That's all anyone remembers about it. What gets overlooked is that Mick Foley debuted
That's right.
a woman who I remembered vividly. I believe she made 2 appearances. I thought 1 until the very end of the show.
The little one.
Oh, yeah.
He came out with 2 women.
I remember this so vividly.
The shorter one.
Who was this?
Who cares?
I care.
I care.
I care
What
vividly.
the fuck are you talking about? Can
Well, I know
someone
the
find out for
You know
us?
what you can do if there's an attractive woman's name and you have Google? You can find more pictures of her.
I see. The one was his wife, right?
That was earlier. There was an earlier edition of Dude Love.
Yeah, I don't think the tall one
He
here was
talked
his
about
wife.
this on one of his videos. There were tamer versions of the dudettes.
I did think that maybe it was his wife because the tall one did kind of look like Noelle.
Thank you.
But
That's
I'm pretty
exactly what I thought.
I'm pretty sure that the tall one here was not his wife.
Yep.
There was an earlier episode with dudettes where one of them was his wife.
Yes.
But who cares about her? We're talking about the little one, Craig.
Yeah, she's
So-
hot.
Thank you.
It's 19 years later. She's probably 19 at the time. Both women are out there. They have 1960s body paint on, like peace signs and rainbows, and 1990s thong bikinis. They're having the time of their lives. They come out through the curtain, their eyes get huge. Look at all these people. And all they got to do is smile and wave and do a little shimmy. They're great. They're having a great time.
So was I.
Now, I remember this woman vividly, but I thought she only appeared 1 time. But I remembered there's another angle, spoiler alert from 19 years ago, where Vince and Dude and these women have a little dance. And it was not on this show, which means we get to look forward to her coming back.
Well, unless it was on like Shotgun Saturday Night, and then you're
it's
never
possible.
going to get it.
Oh, God, now.
Yeah.
Damn it. Why can't you ever let me be happy?
What do you want me to do?
Just let me look forward to this woman appearing on the show again.
Because I'm a realist, Vinny. I know what you're sitting here every week waiting for her to show up, and then you're 90, still waiting. I mean,
Like
you may
I'm going to
be right.
make it to 90.
You may be right. I don't know.
All I know is
It was awesome.
it was amazing. In all seriousness, this is a business that attracts, hires, and presents beautiful women and always has and always will. I think she's the hottest woman ever on a wrestling show.
It's very possible. It's very possible. You know how hot she was? She's so hot that Craig isn't doing his a loftier than thou. Well, she's not a brunette. Not my type.
And say she wasn't my type.
Even he admits
She's everyone's type.
hot.
She had curves for days. You kidding me?
She was amazing.
She is everyone's type. Man, woman, gay, straight. I don't care. You be into this woman. Anyway,
Who was it?
I don't know.
Someone's got to know.
this is part of the obsession. What else happened here? So, dude cuts a promo. Talks about his match with Stone Cold the night before.
I didn't hear a word he said.
Don't blame me.
Not
There was a
even gonna
point,
lie.
in all seriousness, he's talking about his match with Stone Cold and how the point of his promo honestly was the match took so much out of him that as badly as these two women wanted to bang him, he just wanted to be held. That's almost a quote. The last part is a quote. But at some point, it didn't matter what he said. The women were all that mattered. Like mid-sentence, they cut away from dude and just went to thong cam.
No, what it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So they're out there and they're facing the camera. And every now and then they start turning to the side a little bit. And it suddenly struck me, they're wearing thongs. Like, it's been so long since we've seen a thong on a wrestling show that I was kind of taken aback. I was like, cool. What the
Aback,
fuck
you
is
say?
this? Yeah. I was taken aback. So let me describe this thong cam, okay? There's like a curtain behind them. Like they came out through this curtain
I didn't see
Beat the curtain. Yes.
into the Love Shack or whatever.
Said beaded, right?
They took some fucking creep, which is the only way that I can describe this guy, because he was okay with this. They had this guy get down on his knees and sneak his way through the curtain with his camera pointed up right at her ass.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Let's not lie here. But it was simultaneously very awesome and also somewhat creepy. It was like, he's sneaking in here. He's not supposed to be doing this, but he's sneaking in. And they hit the button to get a shot of it.
So, dude said Austin had taken the easy way out. He tried to get counted out. He cheap shot of Vince to get disqualified. He said there's three things that should happen here. One of three things. A, Austin should be stripped of the title, and I should face the former champion Shawn Michaels for the vacant championship. B, there should be a tournament, and I should be the number one seed. Or C, my choice, and at this point, he stopped being Dude Love and went into Mick Foley voice. He should fire Austin and just give me the belt. And then he left with the women.
May as well shut off the show now. It was all downhill from there. Because you know who came out after the women was the Head Bangers.
Well, before that, it was actually important. We had a couple of DX skits, one before and after the commercial. First was DX taunting the fans outside the WCW show. So, you know, they're all WCW fans, but they're wrestling fans, so they're excited to see these guys here. Hunter says, "Who here thinks Eric Bischoff sucks?" And of course, Eric Bischoff's a heel on WCW, so they all go, "Yay!" And then Hunter says, "Who thinks WCW sucks?" And the fans who have paid money to see WCW kind of go, "Yay?" So Hunter says, "We are firing the first shot in the war." And of course, you can't just fire a cannon in the streets of Virginia.
No, they frown upon that.
I don't think. I'm not sure what their Second Amendment laws say there.
It is the South.
Yeah. But regardless, it cuts to a close-up of just like the barrel of the gun.
Yes.
And the tiniest, most pitiful whiff of smoke comes out. And then
It looked like somebody threw their almost done cigarette inside.
yes. And then they cut back to the crowd in Virginia. So they go to break and they come back. Now DX has left the Jeep. They are marching through the crowd. Hunter has a megaphone. They all have their helmets on and stuff, and they're marching through. And of course, they're the stars, so the fans are following them. Now, I bring up the gun laws again. Can you, in Virginia, or could you in 1998, just walk around wielding semi-automatic weapons? Maybe even automatic? I don't know. I'm not a gun expert. Perhaps as a military person or a police officer listening, Carl Stern, perhaps, who can inform me. But you're walking through a crowd of people, and they're all fucking giant guns.
And they don't have the big orange tip on it or
No,
anything?
yeah. Again, I'm no gun expert, but the thing Road Dogg was carrying looked like it would slaughter people.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they open carry there. I don't know.
Really? Very open carry. So, let's see. They found a woman willing to say that WCW sucked and DX ruled, and they led the crowd in chants of DX. So this finally ends, and they go back to the arena in Raw, and the headbangers in the ring, and they're looking up at the screen, and you've never seen two men just through body language go, what the fuck?
And this is the headbangers.
The headbangers. So they were there to wrestle Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio.
No. This week, it's just Scorpio.
The graphic said Scorpio, but the ring announcer said Too Cold.
Last week, it was...
TCS Scorpio.
Thank you.
TCS Funk.
Right.
Which is much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
TCS Funk.
yeah.
What?
It lasted a week.
Too Cold Scorpio
Oh, my
Funk.
God. There was well, anyway, go on.
So, as you both know, and everyone who listens to this regularly knows, I'm no fan of the headbangers. They seem to be getting better. This is their best match, maybe, that I've seen.
Really? I thought it was horrible.
It may have
But
been.
I will give them credit for one thing. Terry Funk goes up to the top rope, and then he gets on the post, and they're all outside. And he's going to go for a moonsault. They got one job.
Yeah.
Catch and save the life of Terry Funk.
53 years old.
Dude, they grabbed this guy great.
Yeah.
I will give them credit. I never want to have a match with them.
No.
But if they're in a match, and I'm a manager, for example, I would be happy to do a dive and have them catch me. I believe they could do it.
So they had a brawl. All four dudes brawled everywhere until eventually the ref got thrown down. He DQ'd both teams. They just kept fighting. Scorpio hit a powerbomb and a moonsault. And the headbangers hit the superplex top rope splash combo that Power and Glory used to use. And they all just brawled away. DX was trying to get into the building where WCW was. They were asking if any of the fans there had gotten free tickets. They said hi to Kevin and Scott. Claimed they wanted out, but WCW wouldn't release them. Good one.
So I believe that there was actually a lawsuit filed over this, but both shows were 30 minutes away from each other. They were both sold out.
Uh-huh.
Both sides claimed the other side was giving away free tickets.
That's right.
Now, it's okay to do that because there were some free tickets given away.
Sure.
If
Like
two people got passes, that means they gave away
both-
free tickets.
They both probably gave away 30 free tickets, maybe 60 free tickets out of 10,000 or whatever.
Sure.
But WWE found footage of the marquee that claimed like all tickets free or something. It was not from the WCW event.
Yeah.
It was from another event. And they pretended, they spliced it all together to make it look like outside of the WCW arena, they were offering all tickets free.
Yes.
You can't do that.
No, that's a lie.
That's not right.
No.
And they paid for it.
We had,
But it did have the best moment of the entire thing where Sean Waltman is banging on the door and he's asking to please speak to Mr. Bischoff. This is Sean Waltman, he says.
Yes.
Not X-Pac.
No.
Not Six. This is Sean Waltman. Would you please come out here and talk to me since you didn't have the balls to call me when you FedEx me my release?
yeah.
That was awesome. It was inside bullshit, but I liked that one. Because he was so sincere about it, and he was so polite.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, Hunter's being a dick. He's screaming over the megaphone. He's just being an ass. They're all being dicks. Here's Sean Waltman very politely asking, can you please just let me talk to Eric? Because I got a couple of questions for him, since he released me in such a diabolical manner.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Had a clip from Unforgiven of dude getting hip tossed off an interview platform and going splat on the concrete floor.
Oh,
Folks, don't be Mick Foley. That's all I can say.
I'll write that down.
Yeah. Vince McMahon hobbled out for a promo.
Gotta say one thing about Foley and these bumps. So he flies through the air, he lands, he did another one. They showed another crazy bump that he did. He did so many of these crazy bumps.
Actually, let me interject. Stone Cold hip tossed him, and he landed on the stairs.
Sure. Now, Vinny has mentioned before that Mick Foley always claimed, I have a body built for bumping. I have a wide, flat ass. Okay. God bless Mick Foley, and he would tell me today that I'm right. This is what you tell yourself.
Sure.
This man did not have a body built for bumping. That's why he just got a fake hip.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have a wide, flat ass. You can't be fucking throwing off things under the cement over and over. You'll break. Yeah. That's what happened.
Rob Van Dam has a body for bumping. Not fully.
Oh, we don't know yet.
That's true. That's true,
Rob
but
has never been
He could be a mess as well.
Yeah.
pretty good till now, though.
That's true.
Let's see. So Vince comes out for a promo. He says the chair shot that he received last night from Steve Austin was not an accident. Austin had not been aiming for Dude Love. He had hit Vince on purpose. So Vince said, I have suffered a concussion. Here in 1998, I was hit in the head with a chair. I suffered a concussion. I now am suffering from dizziness and nausea. So, over the next several years, we will just hit each other in the head with chairs over and over and over and over again. He said he was not going to fire Austin tonight. Not yet. Because that would be too good for Austin. He booked Austin in a title match against Goldust with a special referee, a former tag team champion, a family friend, and a warm and caring human being, Gerald Briscoe. Briscoe comes out. Vince says, if Austin lays one finger on you, I will immediately fire him and strip him of the title. Which is funny because you think...
One would lead to the other.
Yes. So he asked Briscoe if he would be biased or unbiased and impartial. That's important.
Yes, he said...
Unbiased. Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. McMahon.
Yes, he did. Then Vince asked, are you afraid of Austin? And before he answered, Briscoe clarified, he'll be fired if he touches me, right? And Vince says yes. And then so Briscoe says, I will not be scared under those circumstances.
I just love it's such an easy dynamic of, you've got the heel boss, and he's got these two lackeys who are old wrestlers who their career is over, and God only knows what else they could do in this life. I mean, we know that the Briscoes could open a body shop.
Apparently, yeah.
But they're getting paid good money by Vince, and thus they are exceedingly loyal and will do whatever he asks.
Yes.
And they kiss his ass.
Absolutely.
So he keeps giving them money.
Right.
It's such a simple dynamic.
But they are still bumbling fools.
Of course.
Which makes the whole thing even better.
That's the point. Like, Vince surrounds himself by bumbling fools.
Yes. But they will do whatever he says for money.
Exactly.
But I also like...
What a great man.
Briscoe wanted to make it... Hey. Briscoe wanted to make it
He
very...
just proved it by taking that long to
very-
pick up on it.
Very clear.
I knew what he was saying, but I was keeping my mouth shut as to not draw attention.
Briscoe made it very, very clear that he was being protected from Austin. Because of course he's afraid of Austin. But he wants to make sure that Vince will be able to save him. DX tried to drive into the WCW building, but they closed the loading bay door. Here was where we had X-Pac saying, Mr. Bischoff, it's Sean Waltman, I'd like to talk to you. The Outlaws knocking on the door. That was that whole bit. Okay, now you asked earlier, and in fact I've been asking for weeks, why did people think DX was cool? Jeff Jarrett came out after this. DX is fucking cool compared to Jeff Jarrett.
Man, that's some high praise right there.
You need to have geeks in your show to make your other guys look cool.
Well,
And
Jeff Jarrett
here
was
is one of the biggest geeks I've ever seen.
a geek. But you know who's a bigger geek is Bradshaw. Club Kamikaze attacks him.
Mm-hmm.
And the announcers say, and I quote, why Bradshaw? Which is funny because I said, and I quote, why Bradshaw? I mean, they're short enough. He's deceptively tall. It literally is like he's being attacked by the minis division.
Basically.
Maybe he pulled a rib on one of them.
And why? Like, I don't even remember where this is leading. I don't really want to know. Like, are we really going to get Taka Michinoku and Bradshaw against
Oh, jeez.
I believe that's what it led to.
Oh, my
Handicap
God.
matches.
Why?
I don't know. Let's see. This is the debut of Yamaguchi-san under his mask. Taka came out to make the save, and he got his ass kicked too because Dick Togo was there. In his Iron Maiden t-shirt, by the way. Yeah. At some point here, they were asking, why are they attacking Bradshaw? And they said, we understand why they're attacking Taka. He's Japanese too. What?
Maybe they don't like America and they're attacking the Texan. I don't know, dude.
Why are they attacking Taka? Because he's also Japanese?
Sure.
He's their fellow countryman? That's the reason to attack him?
They must know him.
This is so bad. This match only went a minute, but I will say in the minute before Kamikaze came out, Bradshaw looked really awesome.
By the way, no finishes up till now on this show. On any of the matches.
No, I suppose you're right.
Nothing.
I hadn't even noticed, I'll be honest. Because the non-wrestling stuff was at least, in my opinion, fun. Okay. Then we had a great segment. Kevin Kelly's trying to interview Dude Love. Dude's pissed. Dude is not pretending to be Dude. Dude is Mick Foley here. He said things are not going the way they were supposed to go. He said, he wanted me to wear tie-dye, I wore tie-dye. He wanted me to beat Austin, I beat Austin. Because you see, it was a conspiracy. Has been all along, and now Foley is too pissed to keep it under wraps anymore. So Foley storms off. Vince is there with his cronies. Foley passes by, doesn't look at Vince, doesn't call his name, just walks on by, presumably just leaving for the night. But the fact he badmouthed Vince down the hallway, then passed by without saying anything, now Vince is insulted. You have wounded Vince McMahon's pride. A bad thing. So Vince calls him back. Ask what's up. So now that Vince has picked a fight, Foley warns him, don't screw me. This is not what we talked about. This is not how things are supposed to go down. Vince replies by looking right into the camera and looking at the geeks holding the camera, screams at them to shut it off, get out of here, that's my microphone, that's my camera, shut it off, shut it off. And finally they shut it off. And this showed that Vince, you should hate Vince because, not just because he doesn't like Steve Austin, because he's a lying, manipulative, power-hungry snake who cannot be trusted even by those closest to him. This is great! Hunter, X-Pac, and Chyna came out for a promo. It was Hunter's first Michael Buffer impression, the very first time he said, let's get ready to suck it. And then we had the New Age Outlaws versus the DOA.
It's not good foreplay, by the way.
Duly noted.
What?
Never mind.
I'm moving on. LOD 2000 came out to back up DOA. So they're doing this tag match. It's every New Age Outlaws Harris Twins tag match you ever saw. And I don't know what Harris got the hot tag. What a shitty comeback.
You know, it's funny, I was watching this match and I thought, it's not bad.
Right.
Like the DOA, they ran wild at the beginning and the Outlaws are bumping all over the place. And then the Outlaws briefly got the heat. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, this is not a bad match at all. Like, Billy Gunn's really not that good. I mean, Road Dogg's pretty good. He was hitting the ropes great. DOA suck. I mean, it's pretty impressive how good this match is. Then the comeback started, and it was fucking horrible.
And yet, not the worst comeback we would see on this evening. So it's a terrible, terrible comeback. And finally, it looked like Billy Gunn decided, this comeback sucks. I'm going to drop you on your head. And he just grabbed him and hit a pile driver. There was no setup. He was just taking punches. Then he stopped taking punches and pile drived the man. He turned his back. The Harrises did an illegal switch, which was funny because the guy who came in they had the heat on him 30 seconds prior.
Right.
Now he's better. And Billy turned around and the fresh man cradled him to win the match, which should have been an obvious finish once they announced it was a non-title match. Way to follow up on that WCW invasion angle.
Let me tell you something. Even if they had said this was a non-title match, in a million years, I would never have thought that the DOA was going to beat DX.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know.
And furthermore, this is the first time they thought of it. These two giant twins. This is the first time they thought of doing the twin magic gimmick.
You know, Ron, I'm looking at these pictures. They look like each other. I thought this was a picture of me. It's a picture of you.
It's like I'm looking into a mirror.
It is. Undertaker versus Barry Windham in what on paper sounds like something of a cross-era dream match. It was a 1-minute squash in reality. Taker beat him with the chokeslam.
When they both got in the ring, I was not thinking cross-era dream match.
Well, this is the Barry Windham of 98, not 88.
Oh,
that's true.
Man.
Barry Windham in his prime and The Undertaker in his prime would have been really, really good.
It would have been better than this.
Well, that's not what this was.
No.
Nor was Barry in his prime.
No.
We should be thankful it was 1 minute.
Yes. So Taker, who had the other night, or just, the night before, lit Kane on fire, challenged Kane to come out, so he's not leaving until Kane appears. They go to commercial, they come back, they show Undertaker doing what may have been the first Undertaker dive, when he dove over the fire onto Kane and Vader at ringside. So they go back, Undertaker's still in the ring, out comes Paul Bearer and Kane. Now, as I've said, Kane was lit on fire.
Yes.
Specifically, his arm was lit on fire. Now, if you didn't see this and don't remember, he crawled on. His gear had the one sleeve, and he crawled into the ring and put on some giant, thick, protective armor, and that was what was actually on fire.
They covered it in jelly, that stunt jelly where you can burn.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Kane's arm was on fire. Well, of course, it would be unrealistic to have him come out here and be fine. So, after his entire arm was engulfed in flame, Kane comes out, and his arm is bandaged from the elbow to the forearm, and that's it. But there's more. He had his gear on. Mm-hmm. The bandage was over the gear.
Right.
Well, we don't know if maybe the gear that had been burned off. So there was a hole there.
It didn't give it time to... Didn't have time to get it laundered?
Hell no, it's Kane. Kane's going to the fucking laundromat?
Did I mention his gear last week was dirty?
Well, let's talk about the real important thing here. Paul Bearer cut a great promo.
Yes.
Paul Bearer is cutting this great promo, a phenomenal promo, an astounding promo, a great promo, and then there's a commercial. Like, in the middle of his promo, there was a commercial.
Yeah, he got the hook.
Then they came back, and it was over. That was really weird.
Well, no, it ended when they planned it.
It did?
His last line was, he talked about, when you say it was a great promo...
Yeah, he screams that I was peeling the burnt skin off of his arm.
Well...
That's the end?
No, you missed the line. I was watching my son be burned. It was the revelation that Paul Bearer is Kane's father. And I can't believe you missed this.
I see.
I can't believe you missed...
I can.
Undertaker's confused. Because when they came back to the arena, Jerry Lawler made it crystal clear when he said, that means Paul Bearer slept with the Undertaker's mother. Because that was the important news to Lawler. Not that the man was on fire.
I see. I may have hit the fast forward button right after the end right there. Or I may have gone back and then went forward.
Yes.
Trying to figure out why did it end like that.
No, it ended right when it was supposed to.
I see. See, if you already know that Paul Bearer is Undertaker's father, that didn't come off as a revelation 19 years later.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah. I was like, no shit. That's your son. I got it now. Whoosh.
Kevin Kelly was interviewing Goldust.
Good radio, Brian.
And Luna backstage.
That means right over my head. Whoosh.
Oh, that's what it means?
Sometimes these
At this
revelations...
point, Brian waved his hand over his head.
Yeah, I think everyone knew when I went whoosh, that meant over my fucking head.
Yeah, which isn't very...
It didn't mean I opened the window.
Did you know when Brian made a whooshing noise that he was waving his hand over his
Pretty
head?
sure everybody knew. I've done it before.
Kevin Kelly interviewed Goldust and Luna backstage. Goldust claimed that he would be a proper champion who would never use foul language or obscene gestures. But then Dude Love zoomed in, wiped him out, and insisted that this was supposed to be his title shot.
Which is funny because it didn't stop Goldust from going out later for his title shot.
This is not a very effective beating.
A very, very bad beating on the part of Mick Foley.
Hunter, China, and X-Pac came back out. Hunter was pissed, so that's supposed to be his big night. He was not going to let DOA kill his buzz. He issued an open challenge. He said, anyone in the locker room who wants to come fight me for the European Championship, whether it's Skull, 8-Ball, or Chains, come on out. That's the way he worded it. So 8-Ball, I think, comes out, but he's just on stage, and out comes Dan Severn in his suit, jogging past 8-Ball.
As one does.
As one does. He jogs past 8-Ball, and it's Dan Severn. His face is blank. He's
stone-faced.
It's an opportunity for him to win this championship, but he's not concerned about this challenge. He's not concerned about anything, really.
Now, let me ask this question, because maybe I might have hit that fast-forward button again here for some odd reason, but... So, Jim Cornette comes out, and he's begging Dan Severn not to take this match.
Correct.
He's screaming that, I sign your checks. Mm-hmm. Please don't do this. What was he worried about? That Dan Severn would have his hands full with Triple H?
I guess.
A guy that does nothing but talk about his own dick? I mean, what's the problem here? This is Dan Severn.
Maybe he wanted a chance to promote the fight. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Regardless, Cornette tried to slap some sense into Dan Severn. Remember earlier when I said don't be Mick Foley?
That was a bad idea right
Do not
there.
slap sense into Dan Severn either.
No.
Dan took him down, put him in an armbar and a choke.
Yeah, an armbar and also grabbed his neck and squeezed.
Yes.
He goozled him. It was an arm goozle.
It was.
I got to try that sometime.
Where's Wayne? Austin cut a pissed off promo in the back.
Well, I know he's in Portland because he tweeted me.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
What an idiot.
He has
What
Brian's
a
number
fucking idiot.
He publicly tweeted you
Why
to let
did
you know
he
he
do
would not
that?
be at class. I don't know.
because he wanted to make sure you and everybody else knew that he was going to Portland.
He knew you would reply or retweet
Wow.
him, and then he'd get attention.
Yeah, well, it worked.
Austin cut a pissed off promo in the back, much like the one Brian's going to cut on Wang later. He promised he would defend the title no matter what, whether there's a special ref or not. A Val Venis vignette aired.
Oh boy.
He's
How in the world did this shit make TV? This
Dude.
was so lewd.
You think?
Man, oh
I don't
man.
know.
They had Val was sitting in a convertible.
Yes.
His head is
He was
tilted
getting a
back.
BJ. Let's just cut to the chase here.
He was being filleted. The woman came up and Val says, "Hey honey, did you find the keys?"
It's so much creepier when he does it.
It was really creepy, Craig.
And then
You're
she
creepier than Val Venis.
went back to find the keys. Apparently they were around his anyway.
And then he leaned back and his eyes rolled back and he groaned in pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, that happened. The other thing is that Val claimed he was shooting his newest feature titled The Big Valbowski. I think it's supposed to be a Big Lebowski joke.
It was.
I've seen Big Lebowski a lot. Did I miss the blowjob in a convertible scene?
Oh, no, he wasn't filming it right now.
No.
I see.
He was just doing an interview.
I see. Okay.
He's taking a break from the set.
I see.
No,
Yeah.
no. I think the camera was on him. It doesn't matter.
Marc Mero came out for a promo.
He's still coming, by the way,
Yeah, Val.
to the show.
I think it's like till SummerSlam when he finally shows up. We have a lot of these vignettes to sit through. Marc Mero comes out for a promo. There's no Sable, and then he brings her out anyway.
Can you imagine if they've given Glacier that character? Took him a while, too.
Well, I'm sure Ice will be involved at some point.
I just remember when Glacier said he's a mass of moving ice.
Massive moving ass.
So Mero says
If
Sable.
you imagine he's saying ass, it really works for the character.
I guess it does. Mero says Sable had humiliated him by getting stripped of her bra and panties the night before. She said she liked it and the people liked it too. There's that wrapped up. She said they like it even better when she put Mero in his place.
That's the beginning of blowing off finishes.
Yeah, it is really. Well, from start to finish, that whole thing was anyway. So she said she's going to put him in his place. He laughed, said, "What are you going to do, beat me up?" She said, "Give me 2 weeks and I'm going to kick your ass in front of the entire world."
I can't wait for that.
You get Marc Mero versus Sable in 2 weeks.
2 weeks they're promoting this.
I don't know.
Can you imagine?
Vince met with Briscoe again to make sure he would be a good ref. They had a manly handshake. It was time for Steve Austin versus Goldust. First of all, boy, howdy do these people like Steve Austin. Breaking news. Steve Austin was popular.
I got to say one thing and then you can review this match. It's been many, many years. Not that many, but enough that I had forgotten how much I hate the heel ref bullshit.
Yep.
I may have to give up on this retro thing.
There's going to be a lot of them.
We've got years of this bullshit coming up. It's so lame. Like, when you look at what happened, I don't know if you read the recap of what happened at the pay-per-view, or if you look at what happened here on this show, in neither match was there a finish. They do a bunch of bullshit, and then they just play Steve Austin's music.
Yes.
They come up with every idea in the world to get around Vince McMahon just firing this guy, or just fast counting the guy, or just ringing the bell. It's ridiculous. And it goes on for years.
Yeah. The worst of it, the worst specific example of something they do, Briscoe, when Austin has a cover, he's doing very slow counts on Goldust. But then Goldust will make a cover, and Briscoe will count quickly. But then Steve Austin will kick out, and Briscoe will stop.
Yep. You
This-
can't just count 3.
Whole freaking thing started because Vince McMahon said a man submitted when he had not. It's okay then to count 3 even though a man has kicked out.
No. Years we have to put up with this.
Yeah, it always sucks. As the match goes, when it started, it was pretty good. They were both giving it their all, and then they went in about good 10 minutes, and Goldust was on fumes. This is a hard night for Dustin Runnels. So, somewhere in here, Ross says something about Austin having the heart of a rattlesnake. And Jerry Lawler said, snakes don't have hearts.
That's incorrect.
I'm not sure who's teaching science in Memphis. Well, I also liked when they were brawling.
Maybe he was talking about, like, you know,
No.
they're heartless creatures. They're snakes.
They have
Sure.
hearts.
I know they have hearts ass, but my point is, like, not, you know what I mean?
No.
You call someone a snake because they're heartless. It doesn't mean they actually have no heart.
Brian? Lawler wasn't using a metaphor. Jerry Lawler said, quote,
A metaphor. That's what I'm looking for.
Jerry Lawler said snakes
An
don't
allegory.
have hearts.
What's that damn word you used a while ago that you couldn't remember?
I can't remember now.
You idiot.
Anyway, I did like when they were brawling on the
He's
floor.
going to be Googling for 20 minutes after this. He doesn't even know what he's Googling.
Actually, I have no idea what we're talking about.
Vinny, word, forgot.
Don't think that would work. Okay.
What's that word I forgot?
Hey, Siri. Okay. Well, let's get to the end. I was going to say something here, but it's not funny now. Dude runs out. Dude attacks Austin. There's a huge melee. They're brawling on the floor. And Vince goes to whack Austin with the title belt. And as Brian noted in the beginning, Vince waffled Briscoe with his belt shot.
So bad.
Now, I watched this about 20 times, like the Zapruder film, trying to figure out what the hell happened. It very clearly was not a gig.
Yep.
I did think it was possible because what happens is Vince hits the belt shot and the belt hits Briscoe in the side of the head. And like it's the back of the leather. But then the ends of the belt like wrap around his head.
Yep.
I think those are what hit him.
Yeah, the little metal piece doesn't stick firmly to the leather, and I'm figuring that's what gigged him.
Okay.
It was bad though.
Because he goes down immediately and Vince is kind of on top of him. So he has to pull his hand out from under Vince and his hand reaches up and touches his head briefly and he pulls his hand away covered in blood.
Yep.
It's almost like Vince is an incompetent worker.
It sounds that way. And you should not trust him to
like
swing
his
heavy
son.
objects at your head. Yeah, I thought it may have been a blood pack, but yeah.
No, he grabbed his goddamn head because he'd been hit so hard that he got busted open all over the place.
Yeah. And they played Austin's music, and that's how the show ended. And yeah, a stupid finish, and yes, the heel ref stuff sucks. But when people look back with fondness at the chaos and the anything can happen aura of the Attitude Era, they are talking about stuff like